I got the online version.
Okay.
I bought it as cheap as possible because it's more useful to me. It's more useful to me online than it is on paper, because then I gotta Xerox my points and things like that. So it's just much more useful to me. It's just much more useful to me. Wow, I had a great way to navigate. So how do I get to the beginning of this thing?
Yeah, we live, Reggie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Peace to the fam. This is Brother Reggie. So, Unc, why don't you start out, or unless you want me to state my position?
Let me speak to the family. How you doing, Sister Kaba? What's good with you? Appreciate you in the building. Just doing a little quick show right here, real fast. And we talking about Homo sapiens sapiens and the diversity within Homo sapiens sapiens. We're gonna get that straight. I like to also say that we're gonna make sure that the chat is controlled. And so we took all. If you was a male, you're dead, and you woke up this morning, your wrenches is gone. All right, too much of the male back and forth. That's over with. We decided just to let the sisters go in and handle that. We need to be respectful to everybody coming in. I might have friends that you don't agree with. You might have friends I don't agree with, but we gotta keep it. We gotta keep it a buck. So we can't. I can't be in the middle of a fucking tug of war. That don't even make no sense to me. Coming in. I can't be that. You got to mute that out. Yeah, I can't be in the middle of a tug of war. So we're gonna let the sisters, handle the chat room, right? So we ain't got to worry about that no more. We're gonna keep it smooth running, and because I don't want to explode. I exploded. I don't want to explode. I don't want to do that. I want to keep it. I don't want to go into 2020, bugging out with people looking at me, and the only way they can get around it is to say, well, he's just a maniac. Well, he's just emotional. Nah, I'm not going to give you that card. I'm going to take that card away from everybody. We'll work on that. But yeah, so today, real quick, we're going to talk about all Homo sapiens. All Homo sapiens are 99 the same. That's my side. I'm sticking to that until I find some better evidence. So no matter what takes place in the genome, no matter what skin color they are, no matter what they add mixed with, they're still 99% similar, and there is not a separate species of Homo sapiens sapiens. So I just want to put that out there, and y'all know what it is. So Black African Power family, y'all already know what it is. So let's go ahead and get it right in. So how you doing there, brother Nisi? How you doing, man? Nisi, how you feeling, bro?
I'm doing fine. Black African Power, Mossy Warrior Clan, Amarad Squad up. Just here for this discussion.
Brother Reggie, how you doing, man? Researching. Researching. What's good with you?
That's correct. So peace to the family. So we have an analysis problem. I think that we can all agree about that humanity began in Africa. What I want to bring to the table is that the Europeans have taken science too far, and it differs with what you think they believe versus what you actually believe. So what you may believe is a little bit different now than what they believe. So Europeans now, or European scientists, are investigating the plus points of the Neanderthal, the out of Africa relationship, and they have pushed modern humanity, the march of humanity, outside of Africa and then later come back into Africa. And science can be biased. This is a point where these are some of the best scientists that we have used in the past, and they're being biased. And sometimes we are paradigm blinded, meaning that we use a set of rules to or sets of information that we use to make these points, and that when the rules are changed, we may not change with those rules and be stuck in another paradigm, and we actually are blinded by the paradigm. So the Europeans have scientists are now investigating race, but race based on genome and ancient genome. And so I want to ask you, and so they are putting an emphasis on the march of humanity based on the admixture of the Neanderthal, what happened out of Africa. So, you're an expert in this, Nahisi. Modern humanity is when? When do we, give me a date for modern humanity?
Between 250 and 300,000.
That's modern humanity.
Yeah, 190 to 300,000, somewhere in between,
Okay.
approximate.
All right, Nahisi, what do you say?
I'll give it about the same date, approximately that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. What if I say that scientists now are pushing or saying that modern humanity was around 60,000 years ago?
I say you don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me just, so let's just be careful with language. What if I said that, okay, so if I said that Europeans are pushing modern humanity to about 100,000 to 50,000 years, right? You would say that I'm incorrect.
Yeah, I would say you don't know. I would say drop the link. I say source up or shut up. That's what I would say. Not being rude, but like give us the source.
Okay.
Who says that?
So okay. So let's just do this. Okay. 1 second. Let's share this.
Man.
So what I am trying to say is that it seems that while we are, let me just share this. I can share this. Share. Okay. Okay. Okay, share. Okay. Okay. So the book that I am sourcing this from is Who We Are and How We Got Here, Ancient DNA and the New Science, I think, of Human Evolution. Could be, I have to say. Okay, so, okay, anthropological evidence. You see my screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Pointing to a likely scenario of what occurred to early human skeletons with anatomically modern features defined as falling within the range of variation of all humans today with regard to having a globular brain case and other traits date to 200 to 300,000 years ago and are all from Africa. Outside of Africa and the Near East, though, there is no convincing evidence of anatomic modern humans older than 100,000 years and very limited. So evidence older than 50,000 years ago. So my point is
what? You just read something that supported us.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Randy.
Yeah. So you're correct. So you're correct in that but the authors will go on to say, they're talking about anatomically modern humans older than 100,000 years and very limited evidence older than 50,000 years in Europe, right? But so the issue is, in Europe, when I was trying to figure out from in Europe, when is modern humans? Modern humans are only in Africa. When do they become in? When do they find themselves in Europe?
35,000, 50,000.
I was gonna say 60,000 years ago, about 60,000 years.
Yeah, I say 35 to 60.
Okay, so so there are no modern humans up until that period in Europe.
We don't have
No
records of it.
skulls. I didn't know they found no skulls over that. Over
Okay.
50,000.
We don't have records of it.
Okay, so when,
You can look real quick, Reggie. I'm not sure what you saying.
well, what I am trying to say is that the authors are now trying to
Make 'em open.
say that when this occurred,
Mhm.
right? When this occurred, when they actually got into Europe or into this area, that this became a major part of humanity, and Africa was left behind, as far as the human story continued largely into those areas, and then the Africa left the human story until these groups of people came back in. So modern scientists are making the case in very slick words that the major thrust of humanity is in fact this period of 50, 60,000 to 100,000 to 50,000 years ago.
So let's read that. Let's go ahead and source up on that. Let's see. Let's see what they say.
Okay, so
Let's read that.
okay, so what part do you want? Because I already read it, so let's just continue.
Yeah, read that where all of a sudden humanity stopped in Africa. Was they trying to say that humanity, that Africa was not included in the Homo Sapiens traversing around the planet? Is they saying that? What you know what I mean? We need to figure out exactly what they saying.
Okay, so
Because it was a population that left Africa. They disconnected from the mother population. That's called genetic drift, right? And we know they disconnected from the population in Africa. It might have been a band about 20 Africans left. It wasn't thousands and millions. It wasn't that. It might have been 20. A band of 20 left. They didn't mix back in with the mother population genetically. So that's called genetic drift. All right. And, you know, we always give an example of a crayon box of being 100 crayons in Africa, 10 of them left out, right? So now the diversity starts to wane a little bit because you're not going to be as diverse as the original African population, right? And we know this based off of mutations in molecular clock. So we know that the most diverse set of genes is found in Africa. And so we know populations broke away from that gene pool. So we just need to read and see exactly what they're saying. That's
okay.
all. We get it straight.
Okay, so I'm going to do you is the out of Africa theory, is that the only major theory that scientists are holding, or is there they creating a new theory of human expansion?
That out of Africa theory is what is standing right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just.
If they come up with anything outside of that, they would have to. That's actually a scientific theory. So I need to know, what is the theory that they have? It has to overturn the old theory and explain everything. It has to explain everything that the first theory has, and add to it for it to be another competing theory.
Okay, so I'm going to find this. Let me see if I can search real quick.
Politically incorrect. What's going on, brother Vance? How you doing, man? Pseudo Slayer on deck.
Okay.
Peace. What's
'Cause
going on,
they-
big bro?
How you doing, man? We good around here, man.
Peace, brother Reggie. Peace, Nehisi.
Peace.
Yeah, I just realized that the Demasi clan is live. So, man, if y'all want, man, please support the Demasi, man. Go over there and holler at them. Y'all can always see the reload on this one. Make sure y'all support them. This is normally the day they, now I'm thinking about this is normally the day they go live, man. I think they have a very, very important topic over there about the elders and all that. I think that's important. So if y'all can kind of like, you know, make sure y'all go there and support that. We
So
just
what you got up right now, Reggie, this is what you talking about with the anthropologist best known for embracing the idea of the genetic change. And this what you talking about?
No. I have that highlighted. I'm just trying to find the point of their new concept of out of Africa. So that's what I'm looking for. So let's 1 second. Let's see if I
new
can find
concept.
it. Yes, I want to show it to you.
No. What's the name of the theory? It has to be a theory because this is an actual theory. Out of Africa 1 and 2. I can pull it up for you. It has to be a theory. Can't just be, it has to be a theory.
Okay. There is a chart.
Out of Africa theory. I can get that too from New Science. I can go get that too, brother. Out of Asia. You want to talk about the out of Asia? How we want to do it?
That's fine. No. Those what you're saying, what is conventional. I'm trying to show what they are saying in their new theories. So
I know I just need the name of the new theory. Go get it.
yeah, I'm getting it from this source because these are the people. These are the people who's talking about it.
Let me give me that new. Let's see if it's even a theory. Like you hear the flat earthers say, we got a theory. Like the flat earthers don't have a theory. There's no such thing as a flat earth theory. Not at all. So I just like to see how they organize it at.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
Like the multi-regional, that's not a theory, that's a hypothesis.
Mhm.
You get that straight too.
Mhm.
2007, you got research confirms the out of Africa theory. You got the out of Africa versus the multi-regional hypothesis. So the multi-regional hypothesis is just that, an hypothesis. Recent African origin of modern humans. I also heard you say what scientist says. You said scientists, or was it just one scientist?
This is David Reck, and he's in Harvard, and he is a lab, and he is working with the Max Planck Institute.
Which is a very good institute for everybody.
Okay, so
We also got the Chinese challenge the out of Africa theory. You also read that article in New Science. It's a great one.
okay. So,
But the title is misleading. So they're not actually challenging the out of Africa theory. They're challenging that maybe ancient hominids they find are older in Asia, but they don't find older Homo sapiens.
okay.
So they're saying that these hominids went back into Africa, end up being Homo sapiens. They're left out.
Okay. So if you can see my screen.
Yes, we got your screen.
Okay, so it says multi-regionalism soon encountered its antithesis, the out of Africa theory, which we know about that. In this theory, modern humans did not evolve in each location in the world separately from local archaic forms. Instead, modern humans everywhere derive from a relative recent migration from Africa and the Near East beginning 50,000 years ago. The recent data, the mitochondria Eve compared with the deep divergence of Neanderthal and mitochondrial DNA provided some of the best evidence for this theory. In opposition to the multi-regional hypotheses, the out of Africa theory emphasizes the recent origin of a difference among present-day human populations relative to the multi-million year time depth of the human skeletal record. Now they say, yet the out of Africa argument is not entirely right either. We now have a synthesis driven by the finding of a gene flow between Neanderthals and modern humans based on ancient DNA. This affirms a mostly out of Africa theory and also reveals something profound about the culture and those modern humans who must have known Neanderthals intimately, meaning admixed sex. While it is clear from the genetic data that modern humans outside of Africa descend from the expansion of the African origin, group that swept around the world, we now know that some interbreeding occurred. This must make us think differently about our ancestors and the archaic humans they encountered. Now, when you read this, what does that say to you?
That's one person writing the book. Now I want to get you the Journal of Nature. Now I want to get you the Journal of Science. Now I want to see. So it's called the what? The
mostly out of Africa.
Yeah, there's no such theory as the mostly out of Africa theory. Right?
Well, wait, first of all, so the person, but you do know the people that that the author that I am using is David Reich.
It's one person, Reggie, I get it.
Right, and he is connected to the Max Planck Institute, and he is a very, very prolific writer on DNA and genomes.
I know, Reggie, that's just one person though. That's not how science works. I got you.
What
Okay.
page, Reggie, what page is that in the book?
I'm on the, I'm sorry, I don't have the book. I have the online version. So it's under the chapter.
Christopher Stringer, you want to go to him? He got rethinking out of Africa. They're going to always challenge it. That's why science is so beautiful. I like the challenge.
Okay, so we're talking about.
Yeah, that's cool.
It could be right. Talking about the sections. Sorry, Brother Nahisi, I don't know which page. Encounters with the Neanderthals, chapter 2.
Okay, I'll find it. Thank you.
Encounters with the Neanderthal, and it could be maybe about 4 or 5 pages down. So, yet the out of Africa argument is not entirely right. All right, now we have a synthesis driven by the finding of gene flow between Neanderthals and modern humans based on DNA. So okay, so Anki was going to show some sources to say that that is completely wrong, or
no. I'm saying is that's just a person writing a book making a statement. That's one person. That's not how we do it. Now the reality is that's what scientists do. They challenge. That's why it's called, we have to be falsified evidence. And so they're going to always have these challenges. That's part of it. That's not even to say that he's not right. But whatever he has, it has to explain everything that the out of Africa theory explains, right? And add to it. So that's all I'm saying. So yes, it's a lot of people, scientists write on subjects, can say different things. That's part of being a scientist. I get
okay,
that.
so I'm
one book growing and say, yeah.
I'm alerting you to a problematic point that that they are distinguishing this one scientist, as you say, but it's actually a group, is separating out the Neanderthal experience with the human versus the African who never interbred with the Neanderthal, and that this is a major thrust of them doing racial constructs within DNA.
Wait, you're mixing it up a little bit. Let's get back to the mostly out of Africa. Go back and read that again. Where's the mostly out? What do they mean by that? Let's read that slow. Go back to that. Let's see what they were saying in that statement.
Okay.
So how you doing there, Brother X? I see you in the building.
Okay.
Hey, X, get at to
and then I want to go back to what we think is the mitochondrial Eve.
Oh, so you're gonna read that statement?
Yes. No, yeah, I am. And then I just want to hold a point.
Okay.
So let's just go to mostly out of Africa. Maybe I'll search for it. Maybe I'll find it faster.
Yeah.
So humans, okay, so this says, okay, there it goes.
Read up.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn this this match off. Okay, so again, and I want to see what Nahisi says about this too. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so I'm just trying to go to the beginning of the page of this. So these, okay. So basic, and I want to be, yeah. So basically, he says the okay, so multi-regional soon encountered an antithesis, the out of Africa theory, right? In this theory, modern humans did not evolve in each location in the world separately from local archaic forms. Instead of a modern human everywhere derived from a regional migration, a recent migration from Africa and the Near East beginning about 50,000 years ago. Wait, okay, so then he says the recent data of mitochondrial Eve compared with the deep divergence of Neanderthal mitochondrial DNA provided some of the best evidence for this theory. In opposition to the multi-regional hypothesis is the out of Africa theory, emphasizes the recent origin of differences among present day human populations relative to the multi-million year time depth of the human skeletal record. So I sorry, I want to go back earlier, so I reread that. Yet the out of Africa argument is not entirely right either.
Mhm.
We now have a synthesis driven by the findings of a gene flow from Neanderthal and modern humans based on ancient DNA. This affirms a mostly out of Africa theory and also reveals something profound about the culture of those modern humans who must have known Neanderthals intimately. While it is clear from the genetic data that modern humans outside of Africa descend from the expansion of an African origin group that swept around the world, we now know that some interbreeding occurred. This must make us think differently about our ancestors, and must make us think differently about our ancestors and the archaic humans they encountered.
Stop right there. So hell, he just we gotta probably read that again, Reggie. That's one of the things you just read it until you get it. Did you hear what he said? He still take you back to Africa though. So I'm trying to felt the mostly like go back. That's interesting. Yeah, that's some shit you gotta read a couple times. At least for me. Go ahead. What was you saying, Easy?
I said what he's saying that they did that humans outside of Africa descended from the expansion of an African origin group that swept around the world.
Right.
Hey, peace to the panel, family,
doing,
everybody, ex-architect.
How you doing, man?
I didn't mean to cut you off in the middle of the bill, pardon me.
That's fine. Did you get that link to Unbiased?
No, I told him Unbiased, but he arguing on the phone with my man.
You can't argue with him. Tell your man to come on.
I'm trying to get him to come on real quick too.
Yeah, but okay, so we right here, Reggie. Not entirely right. It's we now have a synthesis driven by the finding of the gene flow between Neanderthals and modern humans based on ancient DNA. This affirms a mostly out of Africa theory and also reveals something profound about the culture of those modern humans. Okay, so he's saying the modern humans come out of Africa, who must have known Neanderthals intermediately. While it is clear from genetic data, that modern humans outside of Africa descend from the expansion of an African origin group that swept. So he just, come on, man, they need to stop.
Wait, we now can continue. We now know that some interbreeding occurred. This must make us think differently about our ancestors. Now let's just stop here. African people are largely African people who never left Africa, right? Who never interbred with the Europeans, except for our recent encounter in the slave trade, right? So they say this must make us think differently about our ancestors and the archaic humans they encountered, right? So is he talking about us, or is he talking about the Europeans, or is he talking about what happened in Europe when he says our ancestors?
He's talking about our ancestors. He's not talking just Europeans. He's talking about our ancestors, man. He's not separating that.
Those that left out of Africa, the ancestors that left out.
It's right there, Reggie.
Right, but or if they left out, or is they our ancestors?
He's talking about our ancestors, all of us. He's talking to
Okay, so that sounds okay. This says the Neanderthals were more like us than we had imagined,
correct.
perhaps capable of many behaviors that we typically associate with modern humans.
Yes.
There must have been cultural exchange that accompanied the mixture, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. We also know that there is a big biological legacy bequeathed by Neanderthals to non-African genes for adapting to different Eurasian environments, a topic that I will turn to in the next chapter. The conclusion of the Neanderthal genome problem. Okay, so when we start talking about how scholarship is biased and how they are writing, the Africans that left Africa, right? Those at this particular point are not our ancestors. They're not the ancestors of all humans. They're the ancestors of the admixed population.
What? Reggie, what are you doing right now, Reggie? The man is talking about our ancestors. He's talking to people reading the book, bro.
You talk about Homo Sapiens sapiens.
I'm saying, come on, yo. How you gonna do that, yo? You hit us with the black allergy now, yo. He's talking about white people to say our because he's white.
No, because okay. So because you are sleeping at the wheel, you don't understand the difference between so there is no difference between Africans and other groups of people, other populations.
Let's read it again, Reggie.
Okay, because I think that you were sleeping at the wheel.
Go back. Let's read it again. Let's see who the
First of all, okay, so let's start with
the outer Africa argument.
Okay, wait. The recent date of the mitochondrial Eve compared to a deep divergence of 9. Okay, so the mitochondrial Eve is dated when? Well, let me just read this part. Okay, so the mitochondrial Eve is what period?
I don't know. Neanderthal mitochondria. I don't know. Reggie, we right here. We need to.
I'm asking because we just don't want to miss anything, right?
Okay.
So because what I am saying that he is using genome to do something that you're not doing. You're not separating humanity, but he is. And yes, it is one author, but he's a very influential author. So the mitochondrial Eve, let's just check.
I'm just saying, based off what I'm reading, he's not. He's saying it's our ancestors, brother.
Those Africans that left Africa, right, and went into Europe at that particular time, about 50,000 years ago. Those Africans, they are our ancestors, or is this a group of Africans that left Africa?
So let's read it, Reggie, again.
Yes, okay, I'm giving it to you, yes.
Let's look at it again. Let's say from Africa to the East beginning, let me see, beginning around about 50,000 years ago. No, that's not, we gotta go yet. The outer Africa argument is, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Put up. Man, what you do?
Right there.
He's not entirely right either. We now have a synthesis driven by the finding of gene flow between Neanderthal and modern humans based on ancient DNA. This affirms a mostly outer Africa theory and also reveals something profound about the culture of those modern humans who must have known Neanderthal intimately. While it is clear from genetic data that modern humans outside of Africa descend from the expansion of an African origin group. So he's telling you that all humans from Africa group that swept around the world. We now know that some interbreeding, go ahead, occurred. This must make us think differently about our ancestors. Okay, so now we're thinking differently. Okay, so now we know we was mixed. Okay, ancestors and the archaic humans. So, okay, he's saying archaic humans, because they are humans too, they encountered. It say the Neanderthals were more like us. He's talking to us right now. He's letting us know that the Neanderthal is more like us modern humans. That's what he's saying. Not him being white people exclusive, because he's a European right now. He's not talking about himself. He's talking about the overall human population that came out of Africa. He said that, right? Watch this. Neanderthals were more like us than we had imagined, perhaps capable of many behaviors that we typically associate with modern humans. And so remember early on, they were saying Neanderthal was the caveman and all of the brute and all that. That's not what they realize now after studying them. That's not true. That antiquated nonsense that the conscious community was preaching was just a bunch of crap. That's not how it really was. That crap that Europeans were talking about Neanderthal, that was 100% wrong too. Let me finish. There must have been cultural exchange that accompanied the mixture. The novels by William Golding and Jean Ellul, am I saying that right? Ellul, were right to dramatize these encounters. It says, we also know that there has been a biological legacy. What is this? The earth? No, bequeathed by Neanderthals to non-Africans. Now, watch this. Bequeathed by Neanderthals to non-Africans. Now, what is meant by the non-African statement? We got to get that clear. When he's speaking of non-African, because if you read up, he talked about all Homo sapiens sapiens come out of Africa, and anything that's Homo sapiens sapien come from that population that left Africa. He's saying that. So then why is he now saying non-African? Well, this is what scientists do. When he's talking about non-African, he's talking about the mutations that occurred that occurred off of the African continent proper. That's when they start calling you non-African. They don't mean that you're not an African. They're basically saying that the mutation occurred outside of Africa. Now keep going. Non-African, including genes for, keep going. Genes for adapting to different Eurasian environments. It's a topic to which I will return in the next chapter.
Stop. Those Africans adapting to different Eurasian environments, are they us?
Yes.
Yeah, they were modern humans. I mean,
Modern humans, Reggie.
what do you say they? What do you think they were, Reggie?
Yeah, what was it?
They were the African, they were populations of humans out of Africa. They had been out of Africa for 40, 50,000 years, right? While the African was still in Africa until the slave trade, or until they started coming back in as Canaanites and later Muslims, Arabs, and what they call North Africans and Sea Peoples and Phoenicians and etc. So, but that
2000 is the 2000.
I mean, that's a whole lot of time right there.
So they are not talking. They are not talking about us. They are talking. He is talking about him. Yes,
Reggie, you can't go from 300,000, 100,000 to 50,000 all the way down to 2,000 and 1,500 BC. Come on, y'all.
No, well,
first time. Hold on. Are you saying that the 15,000 BCE is the first time humans came back into Africa, yo? Is that what you're trying to say?
well, this is what I'm trying to tease out from what this author is saying. I am saying that these adapting to different Eurasian environments, a topic which I return, I'm saying that these groups of people, first of all, we're dealing with a mostly out of Africa theory. Let's keep that in mind.
There is no theory. It's the mostly out of Africa theory, Reggie. Come on with that.
You
That's
said
the
it's
author saying that.
right, but this is a lead author that can make this statement, David Reich, right? From this Harvard and this institute in Harvard, who's dealing with genome. He's one of the lead scientists, and he's making a genome out of Africa theory. And I'm trying to share this with you, right? And so when he's talking about, we also know that there's been a biological legacy bequeathed by the Neanderthals to non-Africans, right? Or those non-Africans our ancestors?
Yes.
Yes, Reggie.
And explain to me how these non-Africans are our ancestors.
Wait, you talking about the ones that left out and broke away? No, we come from the population of Africans that didn't leave Africa.
That's largely until recently.
Yeah, until
they started coming back in different time periods, meaning the different invasions, the trading, but that happened.
Yeah, but that's not.
Yes.
We wasn't pure. I'm saying you if you look at my genome, we can go all the way back to like the Arabs come in Africa and mixed with us before the Christians even came in, before they even took us off into slavery too, though. Yo, you gotta look at all that. It's not that clear-cut, straight line thing you're trying to do right now.
Okay, so
go ahead.
My thing is this: for the mitochondria Eve, which would be the L, that L broke off into an M, so that would be an ancestor, and the M is considered a non-African. We're dealing with the land mass. We're not dealing with they're not an African.
I don't what did you say? You say wait, the mitochondrial Eve. The mitochondrial Eve is what group of is where are they?
Mitochondria Eve is on the continent of Africa, but those that left and crossed the border, they got a mutation of an M. You have an M and an N. They are still the ancestor of that L, of mitochondria Eve.
Or they are ancestors?
Are we the ancestors to mitochondria Eve?
Yeah.
They are.
How we are?
Yes, because they are part of the Homo Sapiens species.
Well, no, but there's a split. There's a split. So you could say it would be better for you, Nahisi, to say I may be, you may not be, right? But to say that we all are, right, would be an error. So this is a happening of humanity, but it doesn't affect all humanity.
Yeah, I gotta get Chevron on here. What you talking about, Chevron in the chat room? Let me get Chevron on here.
It doesn't affect all humanity. So this is what I'm trying to say, is that this particular author, David Reich, is basically trying to do what you're not trying to do. You're looking at generally and scientifically, and what he is trying to do is he's trying to put an emphasis on the Neanderthals. So we also know that there's been a biological legacy bequeathed by Neanderthals to non-Africans. He says that, including genes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So right, different to the Eurasian environment, a topic of which okay, at the conclusion of the Neanderthal, okay, so let me just go on further, right?
I missed it. So now they called me. I don't know what the hell you was talking about before that statement. I know you mixed up some shit. Let me get Chevron in here real quick, because I know he gonna mix this shit up too. I know you is Chevron. Anytime you agree with Reggie. Reggie, so wait a minute, Reggie. You trying to say what? That I'm not doing it. He's in the lab, yo. How the hell can I do what he doing?
Let me just continue on.
Right.
So now he goes, we now know that Neanderthal / modern human hybrid populations were living in Europe and across Eurasia, and they may be hybrid populations eventually died out. Some survived and gave rise to larger numbers of people today. We now know approximately when the modern human and Neanderthal lineages separated. We also know that when these lineages re-encountered each other, they had evolved to such extent that they were that at the very limit of biological compatibility, they were at the very limit of biological compatibility. This raises the question were the Neanderthals the only archaic humans who interbred with our ancestors, or were there other major? Okay, so I agree with that part. What is concerning is that, okay, so to me is that where he does the slash. We now know that the Neanderthal / modern human hybrid populations were living in Europe and across Eurasia.
Can we explain what a hybrid population is?
Yeah.
That
is the population of the Africans who left Africa, who interbred intimately, who knew those the Neanderthals intimately, and now there is a modern human hybrid population living in Europe. Or they your ancestors? Or they your ancestors? Huh?
No, they died out, Reggie. We don't have no hybrids living. They died out, bro. They didn't make it because they couldn't mate. They died out. They didn't produce viable offspring, brother.
They were infertile.
Yeah, he was infertile, brother. Just trying to help you out there a little bit, man.
So you are trying to tell me wait, see, you are trying to tell me that the Neanderthal female did not give birth to a admixed. I think that's where it is. That's where it is.
All right, well, go ahead.
There was no sex between the Neanderthal female and the Homo sapien man that produced an offspring of a hybrid population.
No, yo, it was the men having sex with the women. It wasn't the women having sex with the Neanderthal men.
It was the men having sex.
Neanderthal baby.
It was the men having sex with the Neanderthal female.
Yeah.
That produced. Yeah. Now the question is, you said they died out?
Yeah, the hybrids. We don't have right. That's half and half. They ain't had that. They ain't found that no more. You only find like 2% in the DNA. It's not.
So what? So if they died out, so you're saying all of the children from the male Homo sapien and the Neanderthal female died out?
Yeah, they died out.
Okay. Now it says.
Whoa. When I say died out, I mean I'm saying over time they got bred out. That's what I'm trying to tell you right now. That's why you only find 1 to 3%.
Okay.
Left in the DNA.
Okay, but the genomes live, right?
Yeah, the 1%. Yeah.
The genomes live. Yeah. So it says now we now know approximately when the modern human and Neanderthal lineages separated. Right. We now also know that when these lineages re-encountered each other, they had evolved to such extent that they were at the very limit of a biologically compatibility. This raises the question whether the Neanderthals are the only humans who interbred with our ancestors, or were there other major hybridizations in our past. So they are looking at.
Let's look up hybridization. I can't even talk. Shit, man, you talk. Oh my God, man. Oh my God.
I'm reading from the source. Reggie ain't really talking. You just don't like the way I read?
No, I like that, Reggie. I'm saying I'm stumbling over words and shit. I hate not reading shit once. At least once. I read it once. I'm good. When I jump at that shit the first time.
You talk about yourself, Reggie,
not you. Not you, chill out. Hide. Let me see.
Because these people have a surprise, and I want you to, and this is one chapter I really want you to deal with. And because it don't
go back to hybridization, man. We gotta figure out what that is first, man. What's up, Sheffrin? How you doing, brother?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Hey, yo,
please.
I'm feeling what Reggie's saying though. I'm not saying I agree with him, but they've been looking at the Neanderthal and the Denisovan genome, and they've been looking at it, actually saying we get certain temperaments and stuff from them. Well,
I agree.
Right. So even in saying that, I think Reggie is saying that by those Africans who mixed with the Neanderthal and the Denisovan in Asia and Europe, they left the original African population You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so their development was different because they even saying that the Neanderthal brain was even bigger than the Homo sapiens. So I think like slightly it could be misconstrued that that's the advantage that those mixed populations had over the original African population.
Yeah, what? Let me
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They're looking at they're looking at the benefits of the Neanderthal, the ancient DNA of the Neanderthal and the Homo sapien, and they're separating themselves from us. And this is going to be, they're separating themselves and they're calling themselves the non-African.
All right, man. You know what? Hey, Reggie, that's dangerous right there. What you and Chevron just did. It's funny as hell. I like the way y'all did that.
I'm just saying what that means.
Very dangerous. Very dangerous.
I'm not trying.
What we're saying is what they are thinking now while we're sleeping.
Who's the they? Who's the they, Reggie?
Yeah, hold on. X, hold on for a minute, X.
All right.
Is not trying to yell over you these days, brother. I'm simply saying that you and Chevron is dead ass wrong and y'all to make shit up. So go ahead, X. You want to talk real quick? I'm not gonna yell because I got the thermonuclear weapons. Go ahead, Mr. X.
Oh no. I'm gonna let you rock. I just wanted to, because I was on the conference call with Unbiased and somebody else. You already know. So I just wanted to get like some ground real quick before we start going in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Who's trying to make that case? Because you said they, Reggie, and I wasn't following before. Pardon me.
David Reich and the Max Planck Institute.
Oh, you still the David Reich dude. All right, no doubt.
David Reich didn't make that claim. Y'all turned it into that. He didn't. Now did David Reich say anything? They just mix that shit in real.
This is David Reich's book.
No, he's not saying what you just said, Reggie.
I'm not reading what you just said.
I know, yo. Come on, Reg. You're between you and
hey, Reggie. How familiar?
And because they got bigger brain, Neanderthal got bigger head.
No. He didn't. No, he didn't say that. But there are lots of implications from other works that they're adding to it. David Reich did not say that.
All right, let me read it. Here you go. They say at the conclusion of the Neanderthal Genome Project.
No, he's just talking about his findings. Okay, so let's go on to wait.
Y'all crazy.
Okay, now you can read here. We keep encountering.
Where is that? We keep encountering more and more patterns that reflect the extraordinary impact this interbreeding has had on the genome of people living today. Okay, we got you.
So this is what Chevron was trying to. He brought in some other information, but
listen, if you're in Tibet, right? The Tibetans can survive longer in high altitudes.
That's from the Denisovan DNA.
In their genome, brother. So it is an advantage for them. But take them out of the high altitude, they dead ass. They don't function as well, bro. That's what they're trying to tell you right now. They're learning this, man.
Well, let's continue. Right?
So
let's read what they say directly.
Yeah,
we keep encountering more and more patterns that reflect this extraordinary impact that this interbreeding has had on the genomes of people living today. So the genetical record has forced our hand. Instead of confirming scientists' expectations, it has produced surprises. We now know that the Neanderthal / modern human hybrid populations were living in Europe and across Eurasia, and that while many hybrid populations eventually died out, some survived and gave rise to large numbers of people today. We now know approximately when the modern human and Neanderthal lineages separated. We also know that when these lineages re-encountered each other, they had evolved to such extent that they were at the very limit of biological compatibility. This raises the question whether Neanderthals, the only human, archaic humans who interbred with our ancestors, or were there. So he's going into another chapter.
Man, he just killed you with that, though. He said they all died out. And then he said, though, there are some, read that again, that's important, yo. Because we learning right here. We ain't trying to be right, we just trying to learn. Go back.
Right. So he didn't.
That's deep.
So
read again what he says.
No.
Here you go.
No, so we're going to do reading comprehension now. So
no, they said eventually died out.
wait, we now know that Neanderthal/modern human hybrid populations were living in Europe and across Eurasia, and that while many hybrid populations eventually died out, some survived and gave rise to large numbers of people today. So where did that kill my argument?
That's a good statement right there.
We now know approximately when the modern humans and Neanderthal lineages separated. Okay, so my point is some of these hybridization groups died as they interbred with admixed populations, and some survived, giving rise to large numbers of people today.
Right, giving rise, right? But what did they give rise to? What's the point? Today.
Okay, so what?
Hybrids, so now the hybrids gave rise. So how did the hybrids do that? They must have came back in contact with some more Homo sapiens, right?
Yep.
I agree. I am.
But you took it off an important point I was going to read, which is very important.
Yes, where?
Go back to where we was just now when you read that hell of a point. For the record, everybody, the hell of a point was that it was some hybrid population that gave rise to what? What did it say?
Keep reading.
No, where's that right here? It say people today. No.
Yeah, there you go, right there.
Okay, let's take our time. So the genetic record has forced our hand. Instead of confirming scientists' expectations, okay, it has produced surprises. Let's see what the surprise is. We now know that Neanderthal, modern human hybrid population were living in Europe and across Eurasia, and that while many hybrid, damn man, why you do it? Move it. Where I'm at.
While many hybrid populations.
Damn.
Where's it at?
You switched it, Reggie. You fucking trying to be funny now.
No, I closed.
He said on purpose, yo.
No, I did not. Here goes. I try to get more room so you can see.
There you go.
Shit. I had it going, you know. And then we're gonna look at the word hybrid. That's what I was trying to do. Let's get back. Where we at? So the genetic record has forced our hand. Okay, we did that. Instead of confirming scientists, so we expected something. Okay.
Right there. While many hybrid populations eventually died out, some survived and gave rise to large numbers of people today. We now know approximately when the modern human and Neanderthal lineages separated. We now also know that when these lineages re-encountered each other, they had evolved to such an extent that they were at the very limit of biological compatibility. This raises a question. Where were the Neanderthals the only archaic, you got to scroll up a little bit, Reggie, archaic humans who interbred with our ancestors, or were there other major hybridizations in our past?
Now, let's explain what that is, because I understand it. They're basically saying that when they seen all this, they started to realize that that just wasn't Neanderthal, that was another type of hybrid. So, well, I couldn't, what'd you say, X?
No, I'm ad-libbing, I'm like,
Yeah, so they basically saying that everything has been hybridized, more or less.
Yeah.
And we know this from the study of baboons. We know that when different species of baboons go across each other range, they hybridize. That's part of it. And so there's never been a 1000% Homo sapiens sapien. I think we need to understand that.
Yes.
If y'all thought that's what it was, it's never been that. They now understand that the hybrid, let's look at the word hybridization. That's important. Let's do that. Now we're getting into it. Now, appreciate that.
Can I slow this down for 1 second?
Yes, sir. But we ain't gonna let you just run off with
that.
Are
they talking about the when they say us and all of this stuff and forced our hand, right? Our hand, right? Yeah. Are they talking about those admixed populations in Europe? Or are they talking about Africa? Or are they talking about both when they're saying our ancestors?
Both. It's both. Because Africans have archaic humans in our genome.
They're talking about everybody, bro.
Right. But do we have Neanderthal?
No, but we have other archaic.
Right, but do we have the subject is Neanderthal. We now know approximately when the modern human and Neanderthal lineages separated. They're not talking about other groups.
No, it's talking about the evolution.
Completely. Okay. Right. I know where I'm going to take this. So go ahead. So you want to talk about hybridization? Go ahead.
We need to talk about hybridization. but hey, Reggie, I swear to goodness, me and you've been trying to get this straight. I think this is the first time we really understand what the fuck is going on. And I really appreciate this. I swear, me and you've been fighting this since that debate when you beat up the Moors. Yo, I'm like, come on, Reggie, that ain't what you talking about.
This is a good combo, though.
This is a great combo. My damn game rate come on, so I don't know how good it is.
But I see where Reggie going though. I'm not lying.
Yeah, he's doing a pseudo little trick right there.
No, I'm telling you what. No, I'm alerting to you. I'm alerting to you what the Europeans are.
Nah, that's not what they say.
You sound like you got a hidden motive, Reggie. I'm gonna just keep it G. I have a hidden motive because I wrote a review of this book, a negative review of this book, but I want my people to catch up to me, right? Because we're doing this kumbaya science, and the Europeans have taken it. They have separated us in science. Hold on, are you using this guy? What's his name, David Wright? Are you using him to represent Europeans, or are you using him to represent science?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm using him because of his credentials to represent a view of science.
Right.
Yeah, but he's just one scientist.
Huh?
He's just one scientist. He doesn't represent science itself.
Yeah.
No, but he is with the David Planck, and it's how can I say, it's peer review published. His work is peer review published. So it's not an individual kook, and it's not like these are peer-reviewed papers.
Yeah, he's not a kook, but he's not saying what you saying he said.
Are you misinterpreting what you're reading, Reggie?
I wish I was. I just want you to take your blinders off.
No, you
know what? Let me just get to it. Wait, first, I want Unc to do this, and then I'm going to slam dunk the whole thing. Go ahead.
Cook, Reggie. Go ahead, cook them, Reggie.
Yeah, I'm gonna slam dunk the whole thing about how this is. But let's talk about hybridization, because you need to okay. So over here they have a chart. Archaic humans who interbred with our ancestors, or were there other major hybridizations in its past?
Yeah, fire lightning. Didn't we light your ass up a few sessions ago? You tried to bring us that pseudo shit with the two different fields combining and some shit. Come on, man, don't do it. Why niggas get mad when I light them on fire and then try to come back and talk to me? You know damn well I will burn y'all. Like, stop it. Remember, what's my man from Detroit? Had to light his ass up. This guy was bringing some crazy shit.
Here you go. Hybridization and human evolution. It's an important, here we go. All right, a press release from Max Planck Institute, all right, evolutionary anthropology in Leipzig, Germany, announces.
So you want me to stop sharing, or you?
Most.
Hey, share your screen,
Hold on, I'm trying to see something. Hold on. Let me see.
Now Fire Lightning telling me I'm mad. I'm mad, but you in the chat trying to diss me. Come on, bro.
Why, dog? Come on, man. We see. That's why we got the men up out there. The men was.
Yeah, I ain't getting into that.
We can't do it. We can't do it, yo.
The source asks questions when there is no question. Corey McKinney.
Come on, Reggie. Everybody got that. They talking about everything, yo. What he found out was that hybridization occurred more than we even realized, and played a pivotal role in the development of human evolution. That's what he's really saying there, Mr.
Yeah, you know, the Homo Sapien is a hodgepodge of different.
Yeah, he's a hybrid.
Exactly, but they're putting emphasis on the Neanderthal, and they're putting emphasis on the Neanderthal.
No, that's what they learned from studying Neanderthal in humans. They realized that shit was hybrid.
Okay. So look, we're gonna, you want to see a game? Let me just go hit you with this, right? But first of all, I did want to alert you to the mostly out of Africa theory.
Yeah, that's not a theory.
That should sound big alarms to you.
No, it doesn't sound as a statement, man. That was his personal statement, yo.
Reggie,
No, this is a scientist statement, right?
Reggie,
So-
Reggie, it's still personal. Reggie, I don't think you understand the scientific language well, like how they communicate.
Yeah, man. Don't let him fake you out.
No. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. Okay, so make this scientific. Make this science. All right. Make this. Let me go back to the.
His book is not a scientific treatise, neither. It's not a journal. It's not a. It's just his book. He's right.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let me just.
Remember what represents science is the scientific consensus.
No problem. No problem. No problem. Let's get. I just wanna.
An individual scientist. That's like in academia. The academic consensus represents academia, not one academic.
Okay, okay. That's fine. Okay, so let's how do you feel? Okay, let me share my screen.
If we wasn't scientific living on our A game, you have.
Yeah, you would have us. Yeah.
Matter of fact, you gonna get all them that don't know no better. They gonna spell. There you go, Reggie. Yeah, he's the Neanderthal, and man, that ain't.
No, you're not on your A game because I'm gonna show you something.
That's just that's just another crab in the barrel.
I know. Go ahead, Reggie.
All right, so let's deal with. Let's see if I can knock this down so I don't throw anybody off. Okay, so let's deal with your. I don't understand their scientific verbiage, but you do.
All right, go
Let's
ahead.
deal with this chapter. Chapter 9. Okay. Rejoining Africa to the human story.
All right, go ahead.
Wait, when did Africa leave the human story?
See, you miss it. You got that blackology interpretation.
No.
That's what's going on, man.
What is this? When did Africa leave the human story? It says rejoining Africa.
Do you understand the context of that communication, Reggie?
Nope.
Right. Okay.
Just be honest.
Yes, I do.
What is it saying then?
It's saying that Africa, right, left the human story, continued with the Neanderthals and the Denisovans, because I read the whole book.
It's saying what?
That the human story continued with the admixed Africans that mixed with the Neanderthals and the Denisovans. And that's where the human story continued. And then later, Africa rejoined that when those people went back into Africa.
You don't get what he's saying? You're not comprehending what he's trying to tell you? He's trying to say
where the human story
he's not saying that they was in Africa just standing not doing nothing. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that the human story, part of the human story, is when humans leave and start diversing around the planet, yo. The Africans wasn't in that. They was with we come from the base mother population, yo. He trying to say that a band of Africans left Africa, ran across some Neanderthal Denisovans. They started to migrate to other portions of the planet. You know what I'm saying? This is the story he's talking about. While this was occurring, you had Africans in Africa mixing with archaic humans, doing all kind of different shit. He's talking about the story that left Africa. That's what he's saying, dude.
Wait, the human story. So is the human story, why does Africa have to rejoin the human story? That's not loaded to you?
No. Go ahead and read. Let's see, because you could have some points.
You got a blackology bias and it's fucking up.
No. I just want to know when did, okay, because I think this is very, very loaded. Okay.
Okay. I got you.
Reggie.
Yes.
What they're talking about, the out of Africa theory, when they left Africa, they ran into different archaic humans. Like you talking about Neanderthal and Denisovan. They ran into these archaic humans. They did a lot of focusing on the migrations that took place out of Africa. Now what we need to do is go back into Africa. We need to, where did the Neanderthal come from? We know that the Neanderthal is an evolution of a Homo sapiens. Did Homo sapiens mate with Homo sapien in there? Did it carry some of that archaic humans up into the valley like that? There's other archaic humans we got to look at, like Zero. We got to go back into Africa and look. We know the migration, but it's a lot that took place in Africa. That's what it's saying to me.
That's fine. This one word is loaded. So let's go on, because I hear what y'all saying. I hear what y'all saying, because you got you stuck in your paradigms, right?
Oh man.
So a new perspective on our African homeland.
Serious, man.
I knew it. I told you I smelled it.
I smell it. I smell the black algae coming.
The recognition that Africa is central to the human story has paradoxically distracted attention from the last 50,000 years of its prehistory. The extensive study of what happened in Africa before 50,000 years ago is motivated by a universal recognition of the importance of the middle to late Stone Age transition
I just killed you.
in Africa. And the middle to upper Paleolithic and the doorstep of Africa, those great leaps forward and recognizable. So you don't know when the Europeans is coming for you. That's y'all still stuck. Those great leaps forward in recognizing modern human behavior attested to the archaeological record. However, scholars have shown limited interest in Africa over this period. When I go to talks, a common slip of the tongue is that we left Africa, as if protagonists of the modern human story must be followed to Eurasia. The mistaken impression is that once Africa gave birth to an ancestral population of non-Africans, the African story ended, and the people who remained on the continent were static relics of the past, jettisoned from the main plot.
You just killed yourself.
No.
Go back, Reggie. That's what you doing, Reggie.
He's talking. No, he's talking.
Read that again. Reggie, read it again.
He's giving context. I'm not finished.
Nah, man.
He's giving context to the argument. He's saying that what he is trying to say is I want to move forward. I want to get those.
X, where you at, X?
Listen, man. I'm witnessing this, man.
Okay. So basically, he's going to do something. So he's laying it out. What's this part that I said that they left Africa, right? Let me see. All right, let me start it from here.
The mistaken impression. Where you starting from? The recognition?
Yeah, Howard, scholars have shown limited interest in Africa over this period. When I go to talks, a common slip of the tongue is that we left Africa, as if the protagonists of the modern human story must be followed to Eurasia. The mistaken impression is that once Africa gave birth to the ancestral population of non-Africans, the African story ended. And the people who remained on the continent were static relics of the past, jettisoned from the main plot, unchanging over the last 50,000 years. Right. That's what one of the thinking is. The contrast.
That's what you tried to say. He made that statement.
No.
Reggie.
I want to show you what they do say.
Reggie. But the point is, you said when he read that Africa from the get the title of that. What's the title?
I let you talk.
Right here.
I said that this was loaded.
Reggie, hold on, Reggie.
And I let you talk. I didn't talk yet.
Reggie, it says rejoining Africa to the human story, brother. You said, hey, why is they separating us? You did exactly what he read you said people be doing. You did that. That's all I want to say. Go ahead, Reggie.
No, I let you do the talking, right? Because I want to say, why is he making this loaded statement? It's a loaded statement.
He didn't. Sheffrin, can you see this? Can you see what this man here is doing? Can you see what this great researcher is doing to us, Mr. Sheffrin?
Yes.
Can anybody see it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a Reg, it was a key word in there that you read over real quick.
Yes.
That basically tied it back into the African population. It was a key word in there. Read it over if you can.
No, all you gotta do is read the title and say what you say the title meant, and then read what he said. He know what the hell he doing. You did exactly what he said people be doing, Reggie.
I know, but I want to move on because
that man was trying to say the Africans were stagnant and wasn't part of the human population. That's what you said.
No. I just want you to take your blinders off, right? And see the hit when it comes. See it from another direction.
But you just died at your source. Go ahead, Reggie.
No. A new perspective on our African homeland. The recognition that Africa is central to human story has paradoxically distracted attention from the last 50,000 years of its
prehistory.
The intensive study.
The intensive study of what happened in Africa. Somebody else read it, because I'm biased.
Yeah, let me read it. The intensive study of what happened in Africa before 50,000 years ago is motivated by universal recognition of the importance of the middle to late Stone Age transition. Scroll down, Reggie. In Africa, and the middle to upper Paleolithic transition at the doorstep of Africa. Those great leaps forward in recognizably modern human behavior attested to in the archaeological record. However, scholars have shown limited interest in Africa after this period. When I go to talks, a common slip of the tongue is that we left Africa, as if the protagonists of the modern human story must be followed to Eurasia. The mistaken impression is that once Africa gave birth to the ancestral population of non-Africans, the African story ended. And
End it right there. End it right there.
Okay.
That says right there, Reggie.
The mistaken impression is that once Africa gave birth to the ancestral population of non-Africans, the African story ended.
Right.
Okay.
So what he's saying is you can't stop there. That's a false belief. To believe that the African population stays stagnant when Africans left, Africa and moved into Asia. He's saying that's that's the wrong belief to have. Like they both was developing.
And go back to the Wishman comment, and I'm gonna show y'all something. Go back to at the doorstep. Let me show you something. Go back to the doorstep. It say in Africa, in the middle to upper Paleolithic transition at the doorstep of Africa. It say those great leaps forward. So they're saying during the upper and lower Paleolithic time, they were great leaps, right? It says those great leaps forward is recognizable modern human behavior attested to in the archaeological record. It say, however, scholars have shown limited interest in Africa after this period. Okay, it say when I go to talks, a common slip of the tongue is that we left Africa, as if what's this? The protagonist of the modern human story must be followed to Eurasia. See, that's what you were saying that this man was saying. That's not what that man was saying, Reggie.
Hey, but check this out. Check this out.
Is that once Africa gave birth to the ancestral population of non-Africans, so you got to understand what non-African is. That means mutations occurred off of Africa. That's what they mean by non-African. It said the African story ended. And the people who remained on the continent were static relic of the past, was just jostled from the main plot, unchanging over, right. See, come on, man.
Okay, this is what's happening. This is what happened. This is the same thing the anti-vaxxers did. The anti-vaxxers give you some information to suck you into it. Okay, so
hey, Reggie, can I say this? Reggie, this the problem right here, because he's actually saying what you said.
No, I am not. I'm going to show you what he says.
No,
he didn't say anything. Reggie's introducing you to this information.
No, check this out. He's saying that in his conversations with his colleagues, that's what they like. The slip of the tongue is that they be trying to say.
I agree with that. There's no way in which I cannot agree with that. Right?
He's saying that. He's saying what you're saying, that some people do that, Ray. Some signs.
Exactly.
So you're right on that point. He's just not the one saying it, though, bro.
Exactly.
That's all, Red.
Now go ahead, Reggie.
Yeah, go
okay. So, okay.
It's essential when you messing with me, bro.
I understand. Okay, I understand. Let me get
for the record. Reg is right. Scientists play that little game.
Yeah, Reggie, you actually proved your point.
You got real proof, Reggie. We was in the anthropology section in one of the largest museums in the world. Was we not, Reggie?
We was in.
I seen that video.
Paleontologists had no idea about the shit that was taking place in South Africa. Right or wrong?
Right.
Here your money up on the up-to-date shit.
Okay. So I am trying to find my place where I want to talk about how they say all those glowing things and that we haven't changed as much. We haven't changed really as much. They say something, they say that we haven't really changed as much as the Neanderthals when we were stuck in Africa, right? So they do admit that. So let's go there. Let me see.
Hey, Sheffrin.
They put out stretches of DNA that they found, found were nearly exact matches to Neanderthal sequences. Tishkoff and her colleagues also found long stretches of deeply divergent sequences in present-day Africans whose ancestors did not mix with Neanderthals. Since Neanderthals have contributed.
I'll make you in charge of the thing.
What, you stepping off?
Yeah, I gotta step off.
Oh, okay. We could come back so I can formulate more of my ideas, but I am trying to say.
Hey Reggie, did you read that whole book?
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
he just got mad at the book.
I did.
Did you form a conclusion before you read the book?
Yeah, a little bit. Mix and match. Yeah.
Did I form? No, you didn't read the book yet.
No, I didn't read the book.
I was called by a professor to read the book.
Okay.
And the conclusion that I got from the book is the same conclusion as about 64 other Black folks that wrote an article, but I had already made an opinion. So when can we come back to this?
Later on tonight, we can come back.
Yeah, this was good, but Reggie, I think you proved your point, but I don't think he was saying that.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah, you gotta watch the language, especially when we already are plagued by emotional bias against authors' racial disposition. Hey, you bound to make some type of mistake. That's why I asked you, did you form a conclusion before you actually ventured in?
You had to help Reggie.
No, because I didn't know what I was reading.
Yeah, you proved.
But you said another Black person, a Black professor, I think you said.
Yeah, he told me to read it.
Put you on to it.
He ain't know that the author was on your side with that though.
No, the author has already introduced it mostly out of Africa. See, you're sleeping at the wheel.
All right, man. Okay.
What is the mostly, if there's an out of Africa, why do you have to now create a mostly out of Africa? See, you're sleeping at the wheel, sir.
I'm not sleeping.
See, you don't understand that little slip, right? Like Sheffrin, like X. If there is a out of Africa, why is he as a scientist talking about a mostly out of Africa? Huh?
Because I think he's talking about the influence that Neanderthal DNA has on us.
He is. Why is he making that important?
Because I think that
Yes or no? Hold on, y'all. Yes or no?
What?
You want the controls?
Yeah, if they wanted to keep talking, I'll stay.
Y'all want to keep talking?
Oh no, because I want to cook Unc, but Unc gotta go.
Yeah, we can
Say what?
You got controls, yo. You ain't gotta cook me. I'm out of here. You won't cook me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so they get into a possible new deep lineage and ancestry of modern humans. Okay, so they have modern humans, and then underneath modern humans with this chart, they have the West Africans. Well, they have the deepest splitting modern human lineage. Then they have the ancient West Africans, the East African foragers, and the South Africans, right? So of course they put us all on one side because they're talking about they are looking into Africa, right? Let me just see.
Reggie, is it your opinion that science has a bias against African people?
I think sometimes biases are good.
Yeah, that ain't my question though.
I think sometimes biases are good because science helps you disprove stuff.
No, I'm asking you, do you believe that science has a bias against Black people?
If it did not, then I wouldn't have had to read what I just read about what he says. He sees a slip of a tongue when he goes into these conferences. So obviously that proves that.
I think what he was saying was that there's more to the human story than just the exclusive African Homo sapien lineage, that Neanderthal DNA has some sort of effect on humanity's well-being, or its expression, that I suppose it's not being given credit for or communicated.
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that I understand.
I told you I was gonna buy that book. I ain't bought that book yet. I'm placing my order. I gotta place my order on that right there.
What for this book?
Yeah, I want to buy that book.
No, buy the Kindle version. It's $5.
I always want like a hardcover or something,
Oh, you bougie.
I'm bougie with my shit. I mean, scholarship,
Okay.
man. I take the shit serious. If I'm gonna get involved in something, I at least want to have,
Okay. So
that right
they rejoined Africa to the human family. They examined the DNA. We can come back to that. They say that it didn't change. It did not change that much differently from the populations that went into Europe, right?
What didn't change that much from the populations that went into Europe?
The genome, the genes, the genomes.
Okay.
It did not change. So so that seems okay. And so then he goes into these other topics. The disruptive genome, which is the genomics of inequality, the genomics of race and identity, the future of ancient DNA. Now, what I am trying to say is that they're coming. Let's just look at the genomics of inequality. Okay, let's look at this. American melting. I don't want to read the American melting pot. Let's just say, but it's just talking about. I guess it's just talking about racial.
Swirling. The American melting pot began to swirl almost as soon as Christopher Columbus arrived in 1492. European colonists, their African slaves, and the indigenous Americans were from. Hold on, I can't see. Were from populations whose ancestors had been. What the fuck happened to my screen? Were from, and the indigenous Americans were from populations whose ancestors had been
isolated.
I can't even see.
Okay, let me see if I can change the screen.
Okay. No, it's mine. I got you. I've been isolated from each other for tens of thousands of years. Within a few years of meeting, they begin mixing. Scroll down a little bit. Founding new populations that today number in the hundreds of millions. Martin Cortez El Mestizo belonged to one of the first of those populations. He was born within 4 years of the start of the 1519 military campaign, in which his father, Hernan Cortez, led just 500 soldiers to overthrow the Aztec Empire that dominated Mexico. His mother, La Malinche, was one of the 20 female captives given over to the Spanish after a battle, and she first served as an interpreter before becoming
the mistress of Hernan Cortez. But I want to. So he's just talking about the great mixing pot. Okay, so I'm trying to get to because we'll be reading this hocus pocus forever. This basic. Okay, so let's get to the genomic signature of inequality. You want to read that?
Okay, I'll read it for you. The genomic signature of inequality. I can't see. All right. In humans, the profound biological differences that exist between the sexes mean that a single male is physically capable of having far more children than is a single female. Women carry unborn children for 9 months and often nurse them
for several years prior.
to having additional children. Men, meanwhile, are able to procreate while investing far less time in the bearing and early rearing of each child. A biological difference whose effects are amplified by social factors such as the fact that in many societies, men are expected to spend little time with their children. So it is that, as measured by the contribution to the next generation, powerful men have the potential to have a far greater impact than powerful women. And we can see this as a genetic data.
Okay, so she seems to be building some type of case, bringing in that genomes have some social constructs of inequality. So this is interesting. Huh?
Hold on, I'm trying to add Shefflin back. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to add. Why would, pardon me, Reggie. I don't know why Unc made me the damn moderator of this shit. Like, I don't know how to add niggas back into the shit. Hold on, let me see.
Where did Nahisi go? Nahisi left?
All right, I put Chef back in. Chef, you back in. Nahisi, I think Nahisi.
All right, bet.
Yeah, pardon me, I had to figure this out. I didn't know. All right, now what you saying, Reggie?
Did Nahisi leave?
I don't see Nahisi's image, his icon, so I suspect that might be the case.
Okay, so I'm trying to tease out why is he using all of these loaded words. So the genomics of inequality is inequality. So genomes have something to do with inequality. So he's looking at the female and he's saying that the genomes of males and females cause a certain amount of equality. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing this?
I haven't read the book yet, Reggie. I wouldn't be able to.
Right, but I'm just trying to say is that when you start using science and you're out of science and you're using science for something else, right? So you use all these loaded words like Africa rejoining the human family, and he's blaming it on other white folks, saying that, oh, they're not, but he uses the loaded word, right? He could have started this. He could have named the chapter. He could have named the chapter.
Yeah, somebody said, Reggie, Brick City said this is paranoia, not science.
Well, I'm just trying to say that this is a leading genome scholar, right? And he's putting out all of these loaded words. So I do agree with him, right? But why do you have to say the genomics of inequality? So I'm just trying to move on. That's the pseudo history, right? Now, but he's doing history with genomes. And this is a European scientist.
Hey, Reggie.
Yes.
Hey, Reggie, I totally I get the first point that you initially was trying to make, and I think you made it. I don't think you have to go any further.
And did you get that summary guide as well? It comes like that book has a summary guide along with it.
Yeah, hold on, because Reggie, once you got him to even say that his colleagues, you know what I mean, sometimes think like that, it shows that we need to be aware of it.
His colleagues think like what?
That they try to dismiss Africa as
that we left the human family.
Yeah, no, that's not what that said. Go back to that. That's not what that said. You misinterpreted it.
Said his colleagues sometimes do it.
No. Y'all both misinterpreted that. Go back to it. You misinterpreted it.
No, we did not.
Wow. Go back, Reggie. I know what I just read when I read that part, how he was talking about how it's a slip of the tongue.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, go back to it so I can put it in context.
Okay.
I really gotta get this book so I could like have a comprehensive understanding of what's being communicated, because bits and clip can distort my perspective.
So are we saying that scientists is unable to be biased?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the scientific consensus isn't going to be unbiased.
I totally
isn't going to
agree.
be biased.
I totally agree. So what I'm saying is, if this scientist is saying that he's encountered other scientists with this bias, You saying that even though he say it, it's not possible?
No, I don't think that he's saying what you all are interpreting. And
Well, let's
Rich Kitty, I
read
agree.
it. Let's read it.
All right, so
When
let me-
I go to talks, you can read it.
Hold on, let
Go
me
ahead.
start me from the top a little bit. Give me a little more meat real quick. Pause. Scroll up a little bit, Reggie. All right, yeah, let me start.
Let him read it.
A new perspective on our African homeland, right? So it's talking about a different way of looking at our African homeland. All right, the recognition that Africa is central to the human story has paradoxically distracted attention from the last 50,000 years of its prehistory. The intensive study of what happened in Africa before 50,000 years ago is motivated by universal recognition of the importance of the middle to later Stone Age transition in Africa and the middle to upper Paleolithic transition at the doorstep of Africa. Those great leaps forward in recognizably modern human behavior attested to in the archaeological record. However, scholars have shown limited interest in Africa after this period. When I go to talks, a common slip of the tongue is that we left Africa, as if the protagonist of the modern human story must be followed to Eurasia. The mistaken impression is that once Africa gave birth to the ancestral population of non-Africans, the African story ended, and the people who remained on the continent were static relics of the past, jettisoned from the main plot, unchanged over the last 50,000 years.
Boom! Boom!
Okay.
He's going to talks.
You get that though, right? You get what he was saying. He's not saying he was doing it. You feel me? He was saying that he ran into people who was actually doing that. You feel me?
Okay. I understand.
Right.
He was communicating how this idea that how like the main character or the example of humanity is an example of one of the individuals who left Africa.
He's showing you the biasness of his colleagues.
Yeah, I mean, you might have some, but that's not the science.
Right. But this is in a modern area right now. This is in genome studies, right? So, but he has also done something himself. He added to this by saying the mostly out of Africa theory. You forgot that, right?
No, I didn't even read that part. I gotta read this thing. Like I can't even. I don't even want to speak on it until I read it.
Okay, so but you did hear me talk about the mostly out of Africa theory. The mostly out of Africa theory.
Yeah, I heard you speak about that.
Well, he's doing the same thing, but he's doing it slicker, right? Sephron, you hear me?
Yeah, I'm listening.
He's doing it slicker. So let's go to it again. Mostly out of Africa, and Uncle them just let that ride.
Yeah,
he said, "Oh, that's one."
Dulani, I do take a long time. That's because I'm undergoing a proper assessment of this shit. I don't rush.
No, I'm just saying about what he just said in that statement. He wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about
some of his colleagues.
Exactly. So now check this out. You don't think that other white people, right, who is not as well educated as him, can look at the Neanderthal mixture and look at that as a form to be biased against people who don't have that Neanderthal mixture in them?
It's possible if it was popularized that Neanderthals added some benefit to.
But they did.
What benefit that they add that would give those now non-African groups? When I say non-African, I'm talking about the ones who have admixture with Neanderthals, Europeans, Asians, that sort of thing. What benefit that were they conferred onto by the Neanderthal or the other archaic humans that gives them a superiority?
We had to look it up. But they did, they said being the Neanderthal, they could trace they was obsessive compulsives. Like that's where chain smoking come from.
Right.
Like people that chain smoke, they didn't it's a whole bunch of
Yeah, but I never heard them talk about beneficial elements from Neanderthal admixture. I never heard
they
that
talk
before.
about benefits and positives.
No, I only heard them like whenever, like even if you look at like a Geico commercial, so easy a caveman could do it. They usually represent them in a way where they appear to be stupid in comparison to our species. So I don't know why we use the Neanderthal as an example.
No, that's to fool the public.
Yeah.
But that's not what the scientists think. They want you to, okay, so you see my screen right now?
Yeah, no, Corey, I understand that I'm talking about mental benefits. What mental benefits, what cerebral
diseases, being able to deal with temperature, lots of benefits, immunity benefits.
No, I'm talking about what makes them more intelligent.
Well,
you're just telling me like physical, add-ons that aid them for a particular environment. But
let's be open that there's an undercurrent of talks. So do you see my paper? I mean, you see my screen?
Yeah.
And it's called Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology News, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gene flow with isolated by distance and some long distance dispersal. I was looking revolutionizing the out of Africa story. So now they are with genes, they are doing a revolution of the out of Africa story. And so now it's the mostly out of Africa story.
What are they trying to say from what you were able to gather from their communication, Reggie?
What I'm gathering is that basically there's the African story, but they are putting an emphasis on the culture and life of those people outside of Africa. So is the out of Africa expansion of Homo sapiens with admixture with Eurasian populations. They're looking at that. Gene flow with isolation by distance and some long distance dispersal. Archean out of Africa expansion with admixture with Eurasian populations. So I'm adding this only to let you know that they have expanded the out of Africa, the Africa model to the mostly out of Africa model. So I'm just adding this for this paper just to let you know that is what they're thinking. So we're not in a bubble. So the yet the out of Africa argument is, let me see, is not entirely right either. What the hell does that mean?
Well, I didn't read the book. That's what I'm saying, Reggie. If you read the book, I would, at this moment, like I just want to know what your take on what they said was. That's I want to know. Did you properly comprehend what the author was communicating to you, or is there this emotional bias creating this paranoia that messes up or disturbs or compromises your ability to properly comprehend what's being communicated?
I'm looking at the mostly. I'm looking at if the out of Africa model has been established. Why do you need to now revolutionize it?
Because there may be additional information that wasn't known in the past that can now modify and revise what we comprehend in the present. So we have a more proper understanding. Science is always updating and revising positions that it held prior to make things even more correct. So that could be a reason.
So are they using this to separate humanity more?
No, I don't think they're separating humanity more. I think they're just providing a more thorough explication of humanity.
You don't think that there's any social cultural ramifications where, because he admitted in his talks that they have left Africa. He admitted it in his talks, and he's not talking chit chat. He's talking. He's saying talks.
Yeah. What did you say? He admitted? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
He admitted the concepts of his colleagues in talks, how they feel.
He definitely did.
But he was. We don't know. Number one, this is just one scientist. We don't know how many individuals he was referencing. It could be 2 or 3. Like I don't know what the
but it's done.
figure is. Okay, but you know, it's people in the conscious community that are scientifically literate. A very small population of us. But you wouldn't say that the conscious community is scientifically literate. Like we don't know how many of his colleagues he's actually indicating in that statement.
It was enough. Hold on. It was enough for him to address it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It was enough for him to address it, yo. Like, so, I mean, Reggie ain't crazy for pointing this out. If a well accredited scientist is actually addressing something, you feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Then obviously it's a problem. At least he's seen it as one. So we can't just dismiss it. Like we not in that community. We can only get from that community what they show us. Now what he's showing us is something that, we need to look at something. You feel me? So we can't brush what Reggie's saying off. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's a good conversation. And it's definitely a conversation that we need to have. Because
go ahead.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
No,
I mean, if we're going to be talking about science, right, and evolution and stuff, we got to know what these dudes is actually talking about when we not around. And this dude is pointing out something that they're talking about when we're not around.
Okay.
So I mean, it's a good conversation we need to have.
Hey, what was this book got reviewed? What were the reviews like?
Forget the reviews, because maybe
I want to know the reviews because scientists will review this work and we'll be able to get a consensus on what scientists thought, because we're not scientists ourselves, so we have to rely upon their authority.
Okay, but X, I know X, look, I don't mind having these conversations with you and definitely with Sheffrin, and this is great, but I hope you understand that they're doing something very interesting. Altogether, they're looking at, remember there was this thing called biological races? Are there biological races?
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so now they're trying to do something even deeper than that. They're trying to do genome races, right? Genomic races. And so, and where we divide is in this mostly out of Africa model, where there is different genetic data from different human beings at some particular, starting at a particular point when Africans left Africa and intermixed, right? And so this sets up something that I'm just trying to tease out.
But Reggie, I feel like what you're doing is in characteristic of what people from the conscious community do, where you take one individual from some community and use them to represent the community itself. And David Wright, he doesn't represent the consensus of the scientific community, because I'm reading right here from the reception passage in this wiki article about what scientists within the community actually thought about his work.
That's fine. Do you go
ahead. It's controversial?
Yeah, because all of his other work was not necessarily controversial.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, if scientists on a consensus, as far as the consensus is concerned, disagree with something that he puts forward or how he frames it, then we see that the scientific consensus or the representation of science isn't in agreement with David Wright, and so you can't take it upon yourself to represent science with David Wright's work.
Do you know anything about David Wright?
No, you were the first person that introduced me to David.
Okay, so let me just show you something. Okay. So David Reich is he's one of the heads of the Harvard Medical School.
Okay,
This is David Reich's publications,
that's cool.
right? 2019.
And you know the guy that what's the dude that got, I think, got a Nobel Peace Prize for the concept of DNA. I can't remember that scientist's name, but he was trying to associate intelligence with race.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I heard it. I'm gonna look him up.
And
Yeah.
you see, I
Yes.
forget his name, but you see how like well decorated he was. Like I'm sure much more decorated.
So
than
that's why
David. But guess what? You see what happened to him? The scientific community turned on him completely.
Yes, but sometimes they turn on you
Because
for
it wasn't scientific.
social. Yes, in that particular case. So here, can I just introduce you to David Reich?
Yeah, you can. I'm sorry.
His publications. So these are mostly peer-reviewed publications where he's looking at, he's primarily looking at the populations of Europe, but he's looking at humans in general. So he's well written, well published.
I'm still
right?
trying to communicate to you though that David Wright is not Mr. Science. He doesn't have a patent on science.
No, but in this area of genome studies, he's a heavyweight.
He may be a heavyweight, but he doesn't represent that field. He's not the exclusive representative of the field or the consensus of that field.
No, but his work can.
I can appreciate your work, just like my man that got the Nobel Prize, I think.
Right.
For
Okay.
DNA. Like I appreciate you figuring out DNA, but that don't mean everything that you say regarding it is correct.
You know, sometimes science informs politics, policy, thinking, right?
Yeah, it's what changed. It's what made America into what it is. Science changed the game.
And so you know about eugenics.
Yeah.
Right. You know about eugenics.
Yes.
And you say right. Okay.
Pseudo.
So what happens if eugenics doesn't become pseudo in 2019, 2020? What if
well, I remember at one point it dominated American thinking.
Correct. Now, what if they have new tools, right, where they can separate races based on genomes? So they're creating
this whole idea of a race. Race is actually a pseudoscience itself. It's
okay. I hear you. So let's go back and watch these terms be reintroduced. So that's all I'm trying to say, right? I am being because we are trying to be non-biased scientists, right?
No,
so
I always go along with the scientific consensus because I realize my place. Like no matter how conceited I am, I comprehend the parameters of humility. And when I realize that somebody or something is above me in something, then I place myself within, that circumference.
Okay, so
I agree with that, X. But check the move. I totally agree with that. But it's almost like, you know how the so-called conscious community, right? Just Unc says send them the link, yo.
Send who the link?
I think he said send Corey the link.
Corey,
all right, I'll send it up.
I ain't got no idea how to do that.
I don't know how to put the link in the chat though. You know how to do that?
Let me see. I'm gonna figure it out. Hold up.
All right, so check the move. You know how the conscious community took that melanin stuff to a whole nother level and said because they have melanin, they superior. You feel me? You see how they took since human beings evolved in Africa, you know what I mean? That means that Africans are the superior human beings. All of that stuff came off of scientific knowledge, at least small portions of it.
But you know what it is?
That we didn't took and blew up. You saying white people don't take scientific knowledge and blow it up to their, not saying that they're right. And I totally agree.
I think that white people in general have a much far off better education than black people.
That still don't stop them from using science racially.
Yeah, but I don't think that when they hear me out, I don't think that You got some white people that actually do that, yeah, but I don't think that represents them as a collective, no. Like the conscious community doesn't represent black people as a collective. I don't know if people know that, like how insignificant in thought the conscious community actually is to the whole of black people. Most black people don't share the same ideas and beliefs as the conscious community. It's its own segment of black society. You get me? So you may have, you know, little segments of white society that believe certain things, but in general, I think that white people's education from the resources that they have empowers them to be able to comprehend things properly. I don't think that they see things like that. Yeah, you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, let Corey in, yo. He waiting.
Yeah, I got you right here. Peace, Corey.
Peace. What up, fam?
Shit.
Peace.
What's up, yo?
What's up? Yeah, just listening in. I just wanted to say, man, that source, man, is kind of ambiguous, man. He kind of swerving back and forth. You know what I'm saying? He'll lend some credence and then he'll clean it up later. You know. So
you talking about ambiguity with this book we're reading right now? Or review?
The source that Reggie was talking about earlier in the chat.
Yeah.
Where he was talking about the
I got you. Hey, decent Davo, you said that I guess you mean Europeans, they're not smarter, they just had a hell of a head start. That's like saying, you know, a nigga not winning a race, he just had a hell of a head start. If a person had a head start, generally they're gonna be beating you in a race. You know what I mean? Like I'm certain, I ain't gonna say almost, because I know you can statistically back that up, that they have a much better education on average than black people do. They have better resources.
Right. So I think like with the other brother that Corey that you just left in, what I agree with Corey is that the author is swerving. He's saying a lot of loaded things. He's putting it out there and then he's taking it back out, right? He's putting in words like, okay, I'm gonna introduce to the public the mostly out of Africa theory, right? But I'm gonna clean that up. I'm gonna keep it moving. So I'm gonna say, you know, Africa back into the human family. Like I'm not a part of that, but this is what my colleagues are talking about, right?
But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna read it because I think that your reading has a bias prior to you actually even.
What bias by me just introducing
because you're a black power. You're a black power dude. You grew up in black power.
But I also got a science background.
Yeah, and I respect that, but
I am concerned.
Even if you have a scientific background, it doesn't mean that your emotional affiliation to Africa, to black people, and to this black power concept. But
you don't know me enough. Look, I don't care. I don't think like the other Kemetic. I don't think like the other Kemetic people think. Right?
No, Reggie, one of those.
Reggie, I'm not saying that you do, but I know that if you take a piece of bread and you dip it in water with some fish and take that shit out, it's gonna smell fishy. You let it dry, it's still gonna have that lingering smell. So the fact that you were there has me, you know, I'm not.
He's suspect, huh?
Yeah, you suspect to me, man. Like no disrespect, but I gotta really evaluate this thing. That's all I'm saying.
But I brought the Amin-Ra squad mostly into the conscious community.
Yeah,
I did that.
Yeah, you did.
I got out of anybody that they were saying was pseudo. I mixed it, right? Even though I did the debate with Brother Polite, me and Polite worked. We did a great job on chronology, and then on a Kemetic conference, right? That's where I worked with Polite at.
You worked with Polite in the Kemetic conference, that one where everybody was giving their take on evolution.
No,
that was the evolution conference.
Okay, the Kemetic conference. When was this?
Kemet on Trial.
Oh, Kemet on Trial. Yeah, I was there. I remember.
The Kemet on Trial. Yeah, I was. I was a researcher for Polite, so I didn't speak. Polite spoke, but it was both of our work.
Did you give him that work about King James believing in fairies and all that stuff?
No, I only worked with Polite only that one time, and we've been, you
I
know,
remember looking it up and it didn't add up. Like the book, when you went to the page, what he said.
I answered that. I worked with Polite. We did work on the chronology of that. Largely, the Hebrews were saying about the Exodus and things like that. We worked on that on Kim and on Trial, and I constructed some of the. I was the author of the conference. The conference started with the Hebrew surrounding me, and I turned it into a conference, right? The first group conference. And I brought the Amin Ra squad in.
Yeah, I appreciate you for that. A grown black man, 773. I'm not no half breed, 100% African American.
So my point is to look at these new words and like the mostly out of Africa. What the hell is that, and why is that more important?
I don't know what that means, Reggie. So I can't.
Right, and I'm introducing it to you, so I'm not being.
But you're introducing it to me without me having any prior context through reading up to that point. I don't know what that's talking about. But what I'm not going to do is assume that what you're saying is correct, because, like I said, I suspect that there's a bias from your part that's compromising your reading capability.
Hey, X-Yo, you gotta stop that, yo.
You gotta. I gotta stop what?
If a dude is presenting something, right, and he's looking at it from every angle, when they don't agree with you, you automatically go to the reason why you don't see it the way you're supposed to see it is because of Black Power. Like,
hold on, Chef. Generally speaking, there's some Black Power behind the way these people perceive things. I'm not bugging for saying that. But
that's dismissing, you know what I mean, the validity of what they saying.
Yeah,
just because they disagree with you.
It's not just a disagreement with me, it's a disagreement with academia at times, it's a disagreement with science. Like what Reggie is doing right here, like I said, is characteristic of what people in the conscious community do, which is they take an isolated event or individual and they use that to represent an entire collective. And the collective, their perspective or stance isn't compatible with that individual. And so I'm just objective enough to make sure that that doesn't happen. Because
okay, that's fine. I
see what you're saying. I
don't want to go 20 years in my future, and I done got taught all this blackology shit like your generation did.
Yeah, but I'm not talking that. Let me look. X, can I just say a few words? Because I'm not really right.
Pardon me. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. What I am trying to say is that most of our thinking, because many of us are out of college where we can get these thoughts, we are dealing with thoughts in so-called these chat rooms, these blogs, these or what other people present in front of us. And so a lot of times we are a few years away from the scientific thinking. The out of Africa, the European, they have re-looked at the out of Africa model while we're still, so we're like 5, 6, 7 years behind them. They have adjusted it now to the mostly out of Africa model. And now what they're doing is they're using genomes to do this. So now on this paper, what I said is where I wanted to go to at the end, because I'm introducing knowledge, even though it seems like I have a spin, I'm suspect on the loaded words. I think that the words are loaded words. Okay. So now he comes up with a new basis for identity.
I think the word you're looking for is ambiguous. He's using a lot of ambiguous terms. He's leaving a lot of ambiguity around. You know what I'm saying? With the mostly out of Africa. But I wanted to say, I feel what X is saying, you know what I'm saying? But until you were able to critique that, because I didn't hear you critique the source at first. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Science, I was gonna share my screen and show you this wiki article that of course did a review on this, and go to the reception section where it talks about scientists' sentiment sentiments towards this work right here.
You got it up?
I can pull it up right now.
Because I think that they're being emotional.
I don't know how you think scientists are being emotional. The bulk of scientists, I don't know how you would.
Scientists always
hold on. The
people
scientific
in
consensus,
science
the scientific
are always
consensus is one of
emotion.
The scientific consensus. Are you saying that that's one of emotion?
Look.
This is the article right here. Who
I don't understand how you. Yeah. Okay.
How we got here, and then you go down to the reception. Damn, where was that shit at? Because I don't want to read all of this shit right now. Hold on, where's it at? Okay. An open letter by a group of 67 scientists and researchers, including anthropologists, sociologists, historians, and others, takes Reich to task for his book under the heading "How Not to Talk About Race and Genetics." Hold on. Pardon me. Where the fuck was I at?
You're in a good place.
But this one speaking about the book we're talking about, How Not to Talk About Race and Genetics. I don't think this one's speaking to whatever. I'll just read it. The group welcomes Reich's challenge to the misrepresentations about race and genetics made by the science writer Nicholas Wade and the molecular biologist James Watson. But hold on. Is James, ain't this the guy that this was like the dude that discovered DNA? This is the guy I think we're talking about? James Watson, whatever. But warns that his skill with genomics should not be confused with a mastery of the cultural, political, and biological meanings of human groups. The group argues that Reich's understanding of race, their quotation marks, is seriously flawed, and that biological traits like sickle cell anemia have nothing to do with race, but are simply found in parts of the world. In this case, where malaria is common. The same goes, the group argues, for other distinctions that Reich makes in his book, in the book. So we already see like Reich is being critiqued severely.
No, that's just from a group of 67 scientists, but there's other people who say that his work is thrilling and it's exciting. So that doesn't make that doesn't make a case of consensus. That just says an open letter.
Let me ask you this.
Do you agree?
Do I agree what?
That's just an event that happened. That's not a consensus.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, you can look at it like it's some sort of consensus, but I agree with what you're saying right now. I'm not even gonna harp on that right there. But what I'm asking you is this.
I know you're not.
No, like I said, I'm not gonna speak on something that I don't have the education to support yet. I'm gonna get that book. I'm definitely gonna read that. I'm definitely gonna look into this dude Reich, because I've been meaning to do this. But the whole thing is, Reggie, are you trying to make David Reich's book and what is presenting the representation of science? Is that what you're doing right now with this?
I'm trying to introduce you to a open dialogue that has changed the out of Africa into the mostly out of Africa, where some groups of people are putting significance on the Neanderthal admixture origins, right? And that this book is worth reading, to understand that the unfortunate thing, he's a scientist, but he's saying some cultural and political things that is controversial. So I'm sorry, I smell like a fish because I'm in the conscious community, but I'm the difference is I'm for many people who's watching is they now know that there is a mostly out of Africa model.
Hold on. Do scientists in general communicate that there's a mostly out of Africa model, or is this simply David Reich's presentation?
Well, David,
you got to present it right, Reggie. That's what I'm telling you. I smell you.
I know.
You snooping, like you up to no good.
Yeah, I think this David Wright put a lot of his personal political ideas. I think David has a.
Remember, they already, from what I just read, he's already done that in another book.
Oh, has he? Okay.
Yeah, he's already done that in another book.
Now you're doing something that I'm not doing. You're smelling black conscious, and I'm just introducing.
A rather steamy love story, the likes of which may shape your health and well-being for generations to come.
That's Chef.
Only on 5, Alan Martin, Dick
Mike, Chef.
Yo, Chef.
Yeah, he was looking up something. So
go ahead, Reggie. What was you saying?
I'm just simply introducing new knowledge. I hope that
I feel like you introducing it as if it has a place, as if it's like that.
They are talking about it in circles. They're looking for a new form to identify. He's introducing what's happening.
Are they talking about it, or is a minority of individuals?
Okay, can I ask you? Okay, you know what a whistleblower is? You know what a whistleblower is, right?
Yes, I do.
Right. Yeah.
A whistleblower, is he the consensus?
No.
No.
Sometimes he is. It just depends. I don't know. Sometimes the whistleblower blows the whistle because you go out of bounds. You go.
Yeah, but I think your analogy I think is gonna be completely off.
But go ahead.
Because I know I always okay.
I can see where this shit is going. Like I can already tell it's gonna be completely off. Go ahead, Reggie. Chip away, my man.
This is an antithesis of a whistleblower. This is one of these top scientists who don't have to write for the public, but he is writing to inform a large population of some new thinking. We just happen to have, because of his credentials, happen to read it, and now I am introducing the work, right, as he slips in and slips out, being ambiguous, right, or not. He's making some big points and then moving off of it, but he's saying that this is in the thinking. So
okay, go ahead, Reggie. I'm sorry.
So my last, so I'm gonna let you say what you want to say, and I'll say my last couple of points.
All right, I just want to make this known that we cannot take an individual and use them to represent an entire populace. This is where this white man shit come from, where we took a group of white people, or the white people that we were dissatisfied with or disgusted with, and we use them as the standard to represent the entire white population. And from that, so many pseudo concepts have come into fruition. And so we want to make sure going forward into the future, this doesn't have a seat at the table. We don't want that to happen anymore. So we have to be as objective as possible and realize when our emotions are compromising our judgment.
Yeah, I understand I understand both of y'all, because Brother Reggie's point, if I was a police officer, I would pull this source over for drunk driving because he's swerving in and out of lanes. You know what I'm saying? And then to your point, X, you don't want to use one source as the scientific consensus. You got to go with consensus, and I hear what you're saying on that.
Yeah, the consensus is a representation.
So, but like Brother Reggie saying, this dude is swerving. He's going in and out. He like I said, if I was a police officer, I'd pull him over for drunk driving.
Yeah, but no doubt. But Reggie keeps saying they. See, as if that represents the scientific community.
You know what?
And then he uses science, and like he represents science interchangeably with white people.
Well,
you know what?
So you gotta be very careful, because it's a little bit of the blackology right there, and I can see it because I came into this shit. Like, so I see it. I wasn't born into everybody else.
Yeah. So I just want. Okay. Look, I understand I'm from another community, but I'm actually from a different community than the people. I went on Sinetta's platform because it's a very useful platform.
It is.
And I have made great strides. I have been very courageous I have done things that a lot of people have not been able to do because of who I am. I single-handedly challenged the whole Kemetic religion stuff, but at the same time, I deal with the Christians and the Hebrews. I beat up Dr. Vince Bantu, I think, very quickly, right? If you watch me talk to Dr. Vince Bantu, I would not be able to do that if I'm not on Sarnetta's platform and that I haven't rose. But I completely isolated his Bizra to just his own thinking. There's no connection, but I'm really concerned about the Kemet stuff, and it doesn't come without heat. They don't like it. They're more aggressive than you would think the Nation of Islam or the Moors was. I debated the Moors. These people are really interesting as to recently what the threats have been and stuff like that, and what I've went through. So I go through people really not liking me, right?
I can talk.
So I know I might, and so to a number of people, I smell bad, right? I smell bad because I'm always poking my nose into something that other people want to rock with.
Reggie, when it comes to the conscious community topics, hold on, let me do 1 second. When it comes to conscious community topics and you poking your head in those things, pause. I don't mind that because all of the information from the conscious community is wrong, literally all of it. But when it comes to science, you can't treat this in the same setting. Like those individuals are not tantamount with the scientific community. And so like right here, you have to assume a state of humility in comparison to the scientists because you're not above them. You may be above the conscious community, but then again, who the fuck isn't? Go ahead, Corbin.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to say, Brother Reggie, I'm well aware of your track record, and hopefully most of the people that's watching and listening and in the chat do know your track record. Yeah, but I want to bring X's point. I think you put on some conscious community cologne. You don't stink, but you might have put some conscious community cologne on it.
And that's okay. And that's okay. And that's okay.
It's in the air. It's just in the air a little bit. That's all. I feel where X is coming from, but looking back, I do know your track record, and I've seen all the flack you took. You know what I'm saying? You put your reputation on the line. You took a lot of heat and everything. So it takes courage to do what you do.
Yeah, it takes a little courage to jump up. And Sarnetta says, "But Reggie, I thought you was Kemetic," and I was like, none of them are my teachers. I didn't learn from not near one of those. And who were their teachers?
Hey, what about my man Smalls? Is he a teacher?
Of course.
What about the scientifically pseudo stuff that he communicates?
He's I'm not gonna call. I'm gonna be careful about what I say.
Why you gotta be careful when somebody is wrong? Somebody is wrong, right?
Period.
If my mother told me something, well, she told my brother something one day, and I told my brother, "Nah, that's wrong," because it was wrong. It was like 1 + 1 = 3 wrong. And what my mother told me? She was like, "Don't tell him that I'm his mother." I feel like you all take on that type of psychology.
I am a student
to old people.
I am a student of Professor Small. I think everybody knows that. I knew him since he was 39 years old.
That's cool,
right. Let me explain. Brother Smalls has been in a number of spiritual systems. As almost a nephew of his, right? He has tried to get me into all of those things. I resisted. So I've had the greatest pressure with somebody that I care about, right? Y'all don't have the pressure that I had with him. So I disagree to the point where I will say I'm not going to be a part of something that you're into, right?
James Small said 1 + 1 was 99. Right?
Brother Small.
Small, no problem. Brother Small said 1 + 1 was 99. If your intent is to empower Black people, and that's something that can be.
If it's wrong, it's wrong. I have no problem with that. If I disagree with him, I disagree with him.
Now, Can I say this?
Because that term disagreement. Go ahead, Chef.
Now, this is where the conscious community, the so-called conscious community, is hypocrites. I'm not saying you, Reggie. I'm just saying in general how they are approaching this elder nonsense.
You know what I mean?
Right?
I don't play with that shit, Chef.
Yeah. So check the move. Most of the conscious community is not Christian, but their grandparents and their parents and their family is. They don't have no problem disagreeing or trying to correct their family, their parents and their grandparents, right, about the religion, but then they'll let a so-called elder that's not even related to them, you feel me? If it's disrespect to try to check.
Yeah, it's disrespectful on both sides.
Yeah, right. So how can it be like if we're doing to our parents and our grandparents and older aunts and uncles when we in the house, you feel me, on Thanksgiving or something, when we disagreeing with them because we got a little bit more information. Go ahead.
I think it's disrespectful on the elders' part to not change their mind if somebody younger end up finding out more information.
I told you how I look at it, yo. You too old not to know better. That shit don't make no sense. How somebody could walk around saying 1 + 1 is 99 and niggas don't correct them, like because as if these people are, you know, beyond reproach. Like that can't be.
Right. Because they was once us.
And that's how I look at people. Like, yo, you just a wrinkled version of your.
Right. But why be so disrespectful?
I'm not being disrespectful. I'm being practical.
Cultic behavior.
You just exactly. You just like one day I'm gonna be a wrinkled version of my current self.
Why you say it like that? That's disrespectful.
Because what I want to do is demystify them. Like I feel like this is a
right, but look, I mean, I worked around Dr. Yosef Benjo Cannon.
No doubt.
When it comes to being a human being, he had lots of problems, right? Meaning he made lots of mistakes and did a lot of things, but his work was great. Some of the other people, like Cheikh Anta Diop, I didn't meet him. I met his family. I didn't meet Diop. But Diop never deals with admixture. Diop's African origin of civilization is wrong because it's missing admixture, right?
A little outdated, that's all. Not wrong, but outdated.
Yeah, it's outdated. So, and some of our elders' information at the time, Ivan Van Sertima, he was a adjunct lecturer in the Department of Black Studies where I was. I listened to him all the time in rooms where there were only like 10 people. A lot of outdated, wrong information, right? Okay. I agree that if they know better, they should do better. I agree.
But do you agree if you don't call it out, that leads to cultic behavior?
Only if it comes to religion. If it comes to information, you just simply say that's wrong. But if it's religion,
if you can't correct it. Like if I'm on the point where I can't correct it, and that information is still being disseminated, you know what I'm saying? Then where does that lead us then?
Yeah. So you
wrong, yo.
So you do an article on the information. You might say a reexamination. You might do a show.
That's gonna take too long.
Right.
That's gonna
but it's for the people.
Yeah, I mean, you niggas ain't reading. This is the information.
No, you do a YouTube video, a reexamination of something that Brother Small said.
Why don't y'all why don't y'all bring it to the older people's attention? Like, yo, hey, Chef and Corey and anybody in the chat, like, keep it a G. Anytime somebody say something that is wrong and I disagree with that shit, don't I call them out on the shit immediately? Like, I don't wait.
I know, but you also get.
I know, but you know what? In real time, you ain't about to like speed past that.
Sometimes
I think that's a case-by-case basis. But go ahead, Reggie.
Yes, X. Sometimes it's not. It's what you do, it's how you do it.
Got you.
So that's all I'm saying.
Reggie, how you guys are doing things has led to this bevy of misinformation the conscious community is founded on.
I'm not part necessarily completely of the conscious community. I think I do good. I think I do good work. I think I do good work. So I don't think You can equate me with a lot of those things that's going on.
No, I'm saying how your failures. I'm saying how you all's failures to address things that the
no,
old
you're putting me in
say.
with them.
No. Listen to me. Hear me out clearly. I'm saying you all's failures to address the things that old people say has led to individuals assuming what the old people saying was correct and creating this conscious community foundation.
Because you want to throw out all the information when you find something wrong.
No, I don't want to throw out all the information when I find something wrong. I want to throw out the information that's attached to that. And if you fundamentally,
well, that's you, X. But the general attitude is he's pseudo. I ain't gonna listen to nothing that he said because he made a mistake.
I mean, it would require for us to be much more meticulous in our scholastic endeavors, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think that was what Reggie's fear is, and I see that, Reggie, where you know, because and I hate to keep picking on Brother Smalls because I got a lot of respect for him.
What about Infodici and Hey Rue?
Then okay, now we can't listen to nothing he's saying. But I don't think that's where X is going. I think
that's not where I'm going.
Just be a little more critical. We should be able to be more outspoken to the elders. It shouldn't be such a taboo to.
I'm telling you, that's
right.
I do find this.
Hey Ray, you our elder, right?
No, I'm a older brother.
Older brother. Well, your age difference between X and
people would be like
and brothers and Elder Smalls, right? So in that context, you're elder. But look how you subject yourself to be in the conversation with us. Even though, now let me say this, even though now I'm gonna speak for all of us, you're probably more, I know you is more research than all us on here, and you're still subjecting yourself to have the conversation. That. Right, and you're still you're still humble enough to subject yourself to the conversation to advance it. You feel me? To advance the conversation. You saying that we supposed to look at them and they won't even allow us to have the conversation to advance it?
Well,
you getting down on our level, you coming down to our level, whereas like some of the other elders wouldn't do that.
Right. And you're working with us.
I think we gotta stop. I think we gotta stop looking at wrinkled skin as the.
You see, X.
I'm gonna keep. You gotta understand. Keep emphasizing.
You see, but see that makes them say something.
They can say what they want to say. I'm demystifying this eldership aura because we apotheosize these individuals, but that's not what they are. And if you start looking at these individuals with supernatural capabilities, you're never going to be able to have a practical comprehension of the reality.
Good speech is stronger than all fighting, right? It is the way sometimes you articulate things. If you ever seen me, I will act like I'm your little brother, I'm a baby, and I'm getting ready to get smashed, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm smiling, right? And I'm doing it with the Moors, I'm doing it with the Muslims, I'm doing it with the Christians, I'm doing it with the Comedics, right?
Yeah.
And I'm doing it all with good speech. But there's been times, if you ever watch me debate, where the person is really, really outclassed. And
I seen that with you and what's the young dude that rest in peace. But
yeah, really outclassed. And then there's some times where I could really embarrass a person. But that's me. But I take a lot of hits from that because people say I'm not too strong because I don't like the theatrics. I just like I wanted to call Unc up and say, well, look, Unc, on this subject, I know that you do science and stuff like that. Let me introduce you to some other material about what they are saying, right? Because we're stuck in a bubble. We're going on and we're thinking that these scientists are with us because they're doing science. And then I show you a paper where this scientist is using a whole bunch of loaded words.
Yeah, but that's one scientist.
Yeah, but if you
that's one dude, Reggie. I wouldn't
you can't represent science.
Right. No, but wait, stop. See, this is the problem. Investigate the mostly out of Africa model. investigate the
I will, but
genomics of race and identity.
I feel like you haven't done that.
Okay, you can have your feelings.
I might be wrong, Reggie, but I just feel like you read it from an emotionally biased perspective.
Okay.
And then presented it to us.
But if now you do a little work, you will find that these terms are in the market of information. And that's all I'm asking, so that when someone, pseudo or not, comes out with the mostly out of Africa model, you have read it, you could know how to triage it, because we are 4 or 5 years behind what's going on in science.
4 or 5 years behind.
About 20 years though. But brother Reggie, I do want to say I hear what you're saying, because I have seen some scientists take a paycheck, you know, to lend credence to bullshit. Like you'll find a molecular or a biologist that will, or somebody who don't work in a certain field. Like you'll find a physicist that will comment on biology or evolution because somebody paid him to comment, but he's not gonna go as far as some of the creationists will go, but he'll say ambiguous things to lend credence to it. You know what I'm saying?
You're absolutely correct.
That's like with the vaccine shit.
So this is a good conversation.
The scientist that was at the vaccine, he's a perfect example of that. He's not gonna go as far out of bounds because he still got to have a job, right? But he will lend credence to some of the bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
And you guys, and you, Corey, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
But for us to be stronger from time to time, we need to have these kind of conversations. So you are correct. One scientist, but he is pretty prominent. I'm just trying to say what they are saying. We need to investigate these things. They will come back to us, I promise you, because genomes is possibly the new way they're looking at race and identity through genomes.
Hey, but Reggie, but you got to look at this though. See, this is the thing. This is how the pseudos attack the community, because they understand that we're misinterpreting. You see what I'm saying? Some of the scientific papers, or like this paper right here is a good example how somebody can go to town with that mostly out of Africa. You can get a pseudo, he can have a whole following behind this.
Correct.
So what we need to do is we need to keep pushing to be critical thinkers. You know what I'm saying? Like what X is saying, you know what I'm saying? Anytime you smell something fishy, go in and examine it, question it.
Well, I like what you just said. I like what you just said. You see somebody swerving. If you was an officer and you saw somebody swerving back and forth, you're going to pull them over and give them a ticket, right?
Right.
So that's a good metaphor. But the difference is I'm not swerving. I'm showing you somebody that's swerving with some very powerful statements.
I agree. Hey, check the move. Anybody, y'all know evolution, right? If the Neanderthal thing, right, is tied to evolution. Now, you know human beings can participate in that. Like like y'all know we breed dogs, right? We can breed them for certain traits, right? If we want a dog to have a heightened sense of smell, you know what I mean? We can breed for that. If we want them to be a little bit more aggressive, or to be a little bit smarter.
Yeah, it's called selective breeding, or I forget the term.
It's called sexual selection.
Sexual selection, yeah.
Exactly. Now that's what we do, right? As human beings.
That's how you actually got all the dog expressions today. They all belong to the same species, but they're just different expressions in genetic display.
I totally agree. So look, nature sometimes do the same thing, right?
All the time.
All the time.
And that's called natural selection.
That's called natural selection,
right?
The hand of Mother Nature.
Exactly. So now check the move. Now, when they mapped the Neanderthal skull, right, and they measured it, the inside of it, and said that they had a bigger brain than humans, right? Than modern man, right? The Homo sapiens, they said they had a bigger brain, right? Now, you don't think that they are lending, like some people can lend that to, if you have Neanderthal.
No, I know where you're going. No, that's not what
you don't think they do that.
I think what's going on. I think.
Hold on. I'm saying not as a consensus, but you don't think that it's being done
as authors. No, I think that we lack so much scientific literacy. We don't even comprehend scientific phrases or terminology, and then we also have been impacted by our history and unfortunate circumstances that we've been put to as a result of our racial disposition. That when you merge those two together, we get that effect right there, where you believe like it's loaded language or some sort of
but what if it's right? Hold on. What if it's right? So you saying the scientists don't pose an inquire about it?
I think that they do inquire about it, but you can only go.
So what if it's right?
What if it's right that they're using these what you supposed to be ambiguous expressions?
No, I'm saying what if Neanderthal and Denisovan and other archaic human that's found in Eurasians is a benefit for them in certain areas. If it's right, it's just right.
Yeah, it's just right, but we have no evidence of it being intellectual benefit. Just because your brain is bigger don't mean that you're smarter. It's how things are used, not how big things are.
I totally agree. But for the most part, everybody is not don't read that. So
I know, but I just told you most people are scientifically illiterate, and when you combine that with the fact that we've been impacted racially, then they're going to take their scientific.
No, but take us out of the equation. Think about how the populations of Europeans and Asians, how they look down on people of African descent. You saying that those type of scientific inquiries don't lead them to their beliefs?
But Asians and white people look down at each other.
Okay, so let me help out a little bit. Okay.
It's not black people, but they look down at one another.
Okay, so let me help out a little bit. Okay, new book that's out dealing with these issues, right? The book is called Superior, The Return of Race Science by Angela Saini. What basically is going on, these conversations, whether they're in science, whether they're pseudo, whether they're dealing with genome, all these things are resurfacing, right? But now it has a genetic, now they're using genetics to deal with it. I just want to show it to you.
What's the name of that book again?
This book is on my screen.
That's an article, ain't it?
No, the book is on the right side. You don't see it?
Oh, okay, yeah, Superior.
I can't, Angela Saini, okay.
Superior, The Return of Race Science.
Okay.
So now they're talking about
who's the they?
Huh?
Who's the scientific community? Some people in science. Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
But Chef, that's important to realize who the they is, because if he's saying they, and we're not talking about the scientific community, but some rogue.
Superior tells the disturbing story of the persistent thread.
You gotta know who the they is.
Okay. Superior tells the disturbing story of the persistent thread of belief in biological racial differences in the world of science. Okay.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that that's represent like I have to look. Have you looked up who Angela Saini is?
No.
So how do you know this isn't like is she proper to be being put forth? Is she another David Reich? Like these are the things that we got to know.
AX.
Oh my goodness.
AX. So all right, now we have black historians, right?
Yeah.
Right. And we have black people that write books. They are not. All of them are not in mainstream. Far as what mainstream historians are writing and reading about. So do we supposed to dismiss our writers because of mainstream don't agree?
Definitely. If you don't have the proper education to be in that field, to be because it's a protocol that has to be followed.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, pardon me, I misinterpreted. Could you express that again?
No, that's not what I'm saying. That okay, you know that Sheikh Auntie Diop and them challenged the scientific community on the people in the Egypt, right? Now they wasn't in the mainstream.
Who wasn't?
They wasn't writing. If they're challenging the consensus, then they're not the. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I understand that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, right. So do we supposed to dismiss them? Right.
No, but they are. Hold on, Chef. They are a part of that academic community, though. They may not be, as far as their position taken, it may not be the mainstream's communication, but they still are part of that community. And
right. So was Van Sertima them. Van Sertima wrote a book. He was a historian and he taught it in college. He wrote a book that we dismiss nowadays, you feel me? And other people wrote against his book. So what I'm saying is, like, just because they dismiss it don't mean that we supposed to dismiss it. You see what I'm saying?
I hear you, but what
everything
I'm trying to tell
is
you
for the conversation. All conversations can push our, you know what I mean, our learning forward.
I got you, but sometimes, Chef, things become redundant, and some like I don't think that we understand what the guidepost is for facts. I don't, in the conscious community, I don't think that we properly comprehend that right there. Remember what Unc told, he be saying like, yo, only science can defeat science. Well, only academia defeats academia. You're not gonna have some nigga off the street just pop up and he can do something more than the individuals who are properly funded and they have careers in these things and educational disposition in these backgrounds. You're not gonna have niggas pop up off the street, challenge them, and it's gonna override that reality. That's not how it happens. Academia overrides academia in the same way science overrides science.
We should never let our guard down. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's true. So look, good brothers. I have been on for a while. Maybe we can continue this conversation. It's always a pleasure.
Same here, Reggie.
Yeah, thanks so much for letting me go easily. I'm so sorry. I promise I'll take a shower tonight and try to watch it.
They'll be buying that conscious community cologne off the corner, man.
Yeah, but I sincerely listen. I go on all platforms. I always put myself at risk. I put myself at risk on all platforms, right? Yeah. So it's my pleasure to hang out. I just want to show you something that's in the marketplace, okay?
All right, I appreciate that.
You did that.
Just for the record, Reggie, I know your track record, bro.
The only thing with me, Reggie, I just didn't like how you presented that. That was my only. I don't mind you putting it forward, but it's how you.
Yeah, because I'm trying to trap. I put it forward because I was trying to trap biases, right? So if I could trap biases by showing you, well, if the consensus is out of Africa, everybody know that shit, right? We're 99% all humans, not right.
Everybody don't know that.
Hold on, Reggie. Let me ask you a question real quick, because I don't think most people even know this. When you say we're 99% all humans,
no, that's what Ankh says.
Hold on. Do you all know that Neanderthals are humans? Denisovans are humans? I don't know if you all know that yet.
Yeah,
who's y'all?
No, I'm just saying, like
You think Reggie don't know that?
It's people that I've been talking to recently that literally did not know that. I ain't gonna put their names on them, but they didn't know that.
Yeah, but so that's not my point. My point is The way that I introduced it is the same way the author wrote the book, right? And I wanted to show, I wanted to see if people knew some new information, right? The mostly out of Africa concept was immediately dismissed by Ankh, right? But it exists in the marketplace, and they're doing it with, they're teasing it out to do it with genomes.
See, when
right?
you say it exists in the marketplace, you give it more oomph behind it than it actually has. Like, are scientists discussing that shit right there, or is this just
Yeah, he said like 67 scientists. I mean, like I said, that was like a concentration focus group or something. I don't know. That's what it sounds
Why don't
like.
you do some research on it and get back to me?
Reggie, I definitely am, because I'm gonna stop you from doing this dumb shit. I'm gonna stop you from doing this dumb shit. I can't stand when people do that. It's like, come on, man, why you like deliberately trying to misguide me?
Okay, so a lot of times
Reggie keep your sword sharp, man. He want to see if your sword sharpened up. You know what I'm saying?
I want to see if you stuck. I just want to see if you stuck, and so that's the dagger I take. I try to introduce some information, right?
Yeah.
And so now I'm the criminal.
All right.
But when you see a pseudo do it, right? When you see a pseudo, when someone comes up with Bizra, and then not saying that Dr. Vance Bantu is a pseudo, I'm not saying that. But when he comes up with Bizra and somebody like Jabari don't know what it is, right? And swerve right past it and don't come back to it and just say, where did that exist at? Right? Because you don't know it.
Yeah.
So the more we know, the better. I'm on this show because this is the show that deals with science, right? So and some of the people came on and they're saying, well, it don't really say what it does say. Well, why are you swerving? Why is Arthur swerving? He's confusing, but he has a weapon. He's using science, but now he's making social political comments.
I think he was. I agree with you there, Reggie. I think he was swerving. I think he was trying to lend some credence to something, man. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, look, I just want to let this be known. I'm not saying that he's not doing it because I haven't read the work. What I'm saying is that I don't believe, Reggie, that you read this without an unbiased eye. And so I feel like your presentation of it is compromised, and you're going to lead us into believing that this is
How should I have presented it?
You should present it how it is, but I don't know. I haven't read it, so like I don't know if
our initial conversation was an argument with Ankh, and then we got Nahisi on the line because he did read the book. And then Nahisi said, well, I agree with all of that. I agree with that. And I'm like, how could you agree with all of that? How could you agree? Look what he's saying, and look where he's going with it. You can't agree with that
agree. You could not agree though, Reggie. Like what he was saying was correct. It was just the way the words he was using was very ambiguous. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And I was trying to bring attention to that. Mm-hmm. And I don't agree with some of his out of science comments.
Like I said, I'm gonna purchase it. I'm gonna read it, and I'm definitely gonna give it.
Cost $5.
Yeah, those were some. He made some very out of bounds, some very political, personal statements. I will say that. You know what I mean? He put some of his political, personal views into the. Now, was this a journal? Did he publish this in a journal?
No, he wrote journal articles. That's the funny thing is he writes journal articles, right? And then out of a blue, he publishes this book.
Oh, okay. This is just his book. Yeah. See, yeah, that's where you gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like he writes journal articles, right? He was trying to get paid at that point. You see what I'm saying? He writing a book, he trying to get paid. Now, if he was at work, he would have published in a journal. You see what I'm saying? So he doing a side job, you know.
But he doesn't need the money. He's putting it out there in the public. He doesn't need the money. He's a head of a research thing in Harvard. He don't need their little money. $5 Kindle book? No, he's trying to.
That's all good to have coming in. That change add up. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, you put that in the new age section, they eat that up. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't disagree. So
Eat that
I'm gonna leave. I thank y'all for your time. You know, it's hard to survive X. I'm limping.
You funny.
Yeah, he did good today though. X did good today.
Huh?
X did good today. He, you know what I mean?
Like, what you mean it's hard to survive X? Like, what am I doing? That's what I want to know.
Oh, you be wilding.
I'm just trying to get shit, down pat. It's a lot of things that be off. It's conscious community after all. I'm just, when you come into a setting where everything is already presupposed and it's all incorrect, you're gonna snag a pull or whatever. Like, people gonna look at you differently.
Well, I survived. Thanks so much, and we'll come back and hear maybe part 2 where I get slammed, but for bringing a book that's swerving.
I'm gonna read it.
We appreciate it though, Reggie. Good conversation.
Yeah, appreciate it, Reggie. If it's swerving, I'm gonna say, that shit was ambiguous. Like, he was being, funny and deceptive.
The worst
appreciate
thing
you coming through, Reg.
Yeah,
Huh?
the worst thing we could do is act like we know it all. You feel me? In class, sometimes when somebody raise their hand and have a question, it actually helps the whole class out. You dig what I'm saying? Because a lot of people will sit there knowing they don't really get it, but scared to, you feel me, raise their hand. Yep. And the person that raised their hand and asked the question, and the whole class can benefit from it. So the conversation is definitely good, right or wrong. You feel me?
No, I agree with you on that.
In this case, I've seen other people, but yes, you're correct. I bought it on because I was arguing with Ankh on something, and I brought it out to the public. But it's really to because Ankh is like, he's like really direct when he knows something, right? We're 99% human. It don't make no difference.
Homo Sapiens.
Yeah, it don't make no difference. The Neanderthals and the Africans same. I mean, Homo sapiens is the same, right? And I.
Yeah, we belong to the same genus.
Yeah, but there's some politics with that. So thank you so much.
We're gonna get into that next time.
All right, peace.
Peace, Reggie.
All right, fellas.
You out, Chef? Peace, bro. Corey, you out too? Peace, right? That's everybody off. So I like to say peace to the whole chat. I saw people in there trying to light me up. It's cool. I don't mind. But peace to everybody, man. Have a safe night. See y'all next time. Peace. I gotta end this shit. There we go.